Hello and welcome to Chat's, a television podcast bonus sci-fi television show, TrekChatz, where two best friends watch through Star Trek for the very first time. My name is Alan, and I'm joined by the mirror universe, reverse mirror image of myself. It's Magellan.
Hey, you handsome.
Ew.
Tap that little nose of yours.
Boop.
Yeah,
I feel booped.
In the mirror universe, you're quite coquettish.
Which means that I'm really demure in this universe.
Oh my! Yeah, that whole meme in the mirror universe was very coquettish, very inconsiderate, and everybody loved it.
Yeah, everyone was so into that classic mirror universe meme. You know, like. Yeah. I actually don't think the mirror universe people are exactly reverse of the people. Because, like, Kira is not chaste and asexual.
No, certainly not.
So, mirror Kira being a bit of a panther is not, like, entirely the opposite. Anyways, it's TrekChatz. We're talking about Deep Space Nine Season 6 today. I'm Alan. That's Magellan. Magellan, how are you? What's going on in your life?
I'm good. I got two kittens on the desk. They were sleeping, and now they're considering sparring with each other, which is just perfect timing for what I'm trying to do here.
Feel free to aim the camera down if they do something really cute.
I will. Right now they're trying to they're sort of figuring each other out. It's a lot of like, what if I tap you? What will you do? Oh, now it's a full-on brawl. Okay. Some growling. You guys, you're in the studio right now.
Yeah, you're in the studio.
The red light is on. The red light is on. We are in the studio.
Oh, the girls are fighting.
They're fighting. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye, ladies.
Bye-bye.
Lucy and Biscuit, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
But things are good. It's the summer.
Woo.
You know. It's almost July by the time this comes out.
Big fan.
You just turned older.
Oh, shit.
Well, by the time this comes out, so things are good.
I'm finally old enough to be a Star Trek fan. Which is kind of a funny thing because of how much of it we've watched. I was just thinking when we were setting up to record that it's TrekChatz 20, which means that we've been doing this for quite a while. 20 years, I think. Yeah, 20 shows.
20 years of TrekChatz.
Oh, God. I hope. I think we're just going to get caught up way too fast for that to happen. And then we can only put out one every time they put out a new season of TV. But anyways, yes, I will be a year older. I will be a year wiser. I just came from a really fun event. My last event with AMA Boston. Our final annual retreat. Thank you. It was really fun. I was like, I need to leave. Guys, I gotta leave. And they're like, oh, we can go get drinks after. So I'm like, guys, I gotta leave. I gotta go do this podcast. You don't understand. And I did get to record my final episode there, so I recorded from my portable mic, which I left in my friend's car, of course. But I'm gonna see him on Tuesday when I moderate my first ever panel.
Panel!
Technically, my last thing with them officially, but that's not as a board member. Yeah. Does the cat want to bite the microphone cord?
Yep, that's what's happening right now.
I mean, I kind of want to bite my microphone cord sometimes.
All right, listen. Studio etiquette. No biting, no fighting.
It rhymes on purpose. Oh. This is the reason to watch the YouTube version. You can watch Magellan cradle a cat like a little child. That it is.
Who's his little baby? Who's the first chat's baby? Okay,
fair enough.
Okay.
While the kitty gets settled in, we are here to talk about Star Trek. As I mentioned, Deep Space Nine, Season 6, Part 1. The first 13 episodes of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 6. What was, as I often ask you at the beginning of every episode of TrekChatz, what was your experience like watching these episodes, Magellan?
Amanda and I were so jazzed about the last chunk of episodes, and we were left on a cliffhanger at the end of Season 5. So we thought, okay, we're going to dive. Well, she thought, and I was like, all right, I'll go with it. Because her experience watching Star Trek is, there's this sort of artificial need to stop just when she's getting the momentum to want to like binge the show.
Yeah.
And I am the one who puts the wet blanket on it of like, but I got to talk about this in 5 weeks, so I don't want to watch this all right now. But I relented because, you know, we were left at this cliffhanger. So we dove in pretty much the day after TrekChatz and
Oh.
watched like 2-3 episodes.
Mhm.
And then we watched like 5 more. And my memory of that was that these first 6, which are part of a kind of Dominion War reclaim Deep Space Nine arc, were great. And then the episodes kind of fall off a cliff a bit
Yeah.
as the writers figure out, okay, but what is this show now? We didn't
Mhm.
give ourselves much to work with after undoing what we did at the end of the previous season.
Totally.
And it was somewhere in that chunk where we like started one episode and we were 5 minutes into it and it's like, fine, we can skip this one for now. We started another one. We watched like 15 minutes of it. We just didn't finish it. And then I kind of slammed this whole half season all over again, starting like 2 days ago.
Oh, the back 6, the back 7.
No, I rewatched the first 6 also.
Okay, got it.
And upon rewatching it, my opinion was a lot more level across all of them. Like the ones that I thought were amazing at the beginning were like pretty good.
Yeah.
And the ones that I thought were terrible were not that bad. So my opinions became less intense.
They flattened out.
And the whole time Amanda was kind of like, am I wrong? Like, isn't this season bad? What are you talking about? The episodes are okay. So I'm excited to see what you thought of them. What was your experience?
I was pretty well paced this season. I'm also really behind on my book club reading, which is also sci-fi this month. We're reading The Dispossessed by Ursula K. Le Guin. So I was like, I gotta rush 2 important sci-fi series in like what is otherwise also a busy period of my life. We mentioned last episode that I was in New Orleans and I just got a car, and so like I have audiobook time to chew through the book club book, but I can't watch Star Trek in the car. That's unsafe. So I'm like, I just need to like decide that each day I'm watching X number of episodes, which is not how I usually do it. But I was like, okay, it's 4 or not. I'm not doing it. I have to. And I managed it. I did 4 and then 4 and then 5, I think. Is that 13? Yeah. And that worked out fine. Actually, I think I was able to do like 4 and then 6 and then 3 or something, or 4, whatever. Point is, I watched more in the second day, which is 2 days ago. 3 days ago. Time. 2 days ago. Where am I? And I mentioned that because I watched the 6-episode chunk in one sitting. So a lot of my review is like, this one is vaguely about this one is vaguely about this, but the first 6 really smushed together for me. So I think I liked them. I think I liked all of them. My problem, and like it seems like a lot of people online echo this, is that the season does fall off a cliff a little because they didn't give themselves any runway to work with. Mm-hmm. We talk a lot about this concept in serialized TV of like building runway, right? You make a plot, you give it a climactic moment, and then that climactic moment changes the board state. It changes the ground state of things on the series. And then the problem with Deep Space Nine season 6 is like all this cool stuff happens with the Dominion War and the occupying forces and the Cardassians, and then they literally forget. They're just like, oh, we're back to 0. We're back to like season 1 level of plot. Some of that was really fun to me. Like I think the Worf and Dax wedding episode was like super fun, and felt like it was at the right point. Like it was 1 or 2 episodes after all the wacky stuff. But then we get like the Worf one, and you're like, I didn't need this. And then you get the Morn one, which I've been excited about since the day we met Morn, my sweet, sweet boy. But it felt like now is when they put it in the show, like in this really awkward little. But right at the very end, the last 2, I would say I was like, oh, okay. We're actually on a good track again. But it's weird how far like 7, 8, and 9, I think, drop off a cliff. Yeah, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and then 11, 12, 13 are what I liked a lot. So there's chunks in there of lower quality, in my opinion.
Yeah, it seems like the show is trying to do some palate cleansing with a few like
Exactly.
lighthearted or funny episode, but at a certain point I'm like, guys, my palate is clean. I feel minty fresh. I'm ready to like chew into something disgusting
I smell
and
great.
beefy. Yeah, I smell great, you know. It's kind of like I've been swishing water at the dentist for the past 3 hours and I'm ready to for you to drill into me.
Just wrap it up.
Um but yeah, I what I've found intriguing about this chunk of television, I think we often like to watch shows that are from kind of like the 80s to the aughts stretch of time where TV is trying to figure out, you know, serialization and what role serialization plays in the medium, um, narratively speaking. And different shows will kind of address that to different extents. Maybe in different chunks of episodes or stretches of episodes, they'll
Hmm.
address it to different extents. And throughout our conversations about Deep Space Nine, the elephant in the room has been Babylon 5,
Yeah.
which uh, in some ways is like way, way, way more serialized than Deep Space Nine. And I think what Babylon 5 does well, in contrast with these episodes and this season of Deep Space Nine, is like when things change on B5, they change. Things
Yeah.
are different now.
Right.
There's no going back.
Hmm.
And it kind of felt uh in this half a season like, well, we we lost the station and then we spend 6 episodes getting back to exactly where we were in the second to last episode of season 5.
Yeah.
And they essentially do that TV show thing of like big cliffhanger at the end of the season. Oh, but we resolve it in the first episode, except they resolve it in the first 6.
Right.
So I guess in some ways that's an improvement. There's more serialization there. Um, and they do it creatively where like it's not as if every single episode builds sequentially on the previous one, but rather they sort of explore the nooks and crannies of that space, which I think is
Yeah.
smart because you can't expect all of the Star Trek viewers to be watching week to week or to remember what happened 2 weeks
Exactly.
ago necessarily. So it's intriguing to see how the season 6 of Deep Space Nine tries to create the serialized feel while still holding true to this very story of the week um, approach that Star Trek has had for
Hmm.
forever.
Hmm.
But I think we see the limits of it here, and it falls apart a little bit as we
Yeah.
get deeper into the season.
Main issue being, as you said, after those 6, we're back on, and it's like, okay, now what? Like, what's different about all the work that
Mm-hmm.
we just did, about all the fighting and losses that we just took? Nothing? Okay, I guess we're gonna do a fun, silly episode then. All right.
Right.
Um,
And there's some fallout, like there specifically with Gul Dukat. There's a whole
yeah.
episode that kind of addresses that and meditates on, okay, what happened to this guy. And there's like Wayun and Damar come back in an episode, so it's not as if it's completely 100% back to normal, but it's this weird um kind of like detente in the conflict that feels like, wait, weren't we so scared of the Dominion and we were so scared of them coming through the wormhole, and now they can,
And it's
but like their ships got
fine.
destroyed, but they I don't know. So like, what are the stakes here? It's a little confusing for that reason.
It actually reminded me a lot of Xena in that way, where there
Mm,
was
mm-hmm.
this year, this block of episodes does have Deep Space Nine's deconstruction of falling stars, my favorite Babylon 5 episode. I'd say the last one we watched is like as close as this show's gonna get to like a let's zoom out kind of story. But then also when I compare it to Xena, it's like not only is there a people dressed up as people, different characters episode, but also a bunch of big stuff happens, and all we really need to do is get us back to zero. Like the need to return to zero often hampers the storytelling, but like that's just how TV was made. Maybe September 1997,
Yep.
the Clinton
September
administration.
1997.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But let's get into it, right?
Yeah, let's talk about the specific episodes here. So we start with episode 1 of season 6, which is called "A Time to Stand," and it's our first. The Dominion has Deep Space Nine, aka Tarek Noor, again. Episode. This one is kind of just like setting the table for where everybody's at this time. Dukat and Wei Yun are running Deep Space Nine together. There's sort of these growing rifts between them. Jake is a reporter and he's trying to report on stuff. The Defiant crew is now flying a Jem'Hadar ship, and Sisko is wearing Vegeta's power scouter power level over 9,000. You guys remember the internet, that kind of thing. Ducat's being super creepy to Major Kira. It's like all the stuff
Table
that
setting.
you'd want to know. Yeah, where is this character? Where's that character? Here's where they are in A Time to Stand.
Yeah, and even it
What did you think
references.
of this one?
I like how much it referenced the past, and kind of like acknowledged everything. Like, we're gonna destroy a whole shipment of Ketracel White because we want to control the people. That becomes a plot point. The Dominion ship that they're talking about in this one is the one from that episode, I think like 2 seasons ago, called The Ship, the one with the dead changeling on it. It's like that's all coming back. This episode kind of rewards you for like being a Trekkie, like being dedicated to everything going on here. I think of these 6 episodes, what I like the most is how much I could relate it to like our current political situation. It's sometimes it's kind of like sad and frustrating, depressing, whatever you want to say, how close it is. But even something like, Wei Yun is like, I don't want you to interview me, Jake, because you're biased. You're like you're the liberal media. I'm not gonna let you talk to me. And then I think it's him who makes the line, or it might be Gul Dukat. We're not an occupying force. None of this was an occupation. And you're like, ooh, this is very like Trump wants to invade Palestine and turn it into a condo, but we're doing it for them, not for us. And you're like, get out of real life. Stop. This is from 27 years ago. I'm dying. So
yeah,
there are little bits of that, but yeah, it mostly it's just set up. Dukat flirts with Kira. Other great highlight of Time to Stand is Wei Yun. We learned that he's really devoted to Odo because Odo's a changeling, and that means that he's a member of the founders. So Odo's like, well, I want Bajoran security. And he's like, of course. Jeffrey Combs is so good in these episodes. And that's when Kira's like, you should take advantage of this. How about you join the station's council? Which really means that over and over again over these 6 episodes, Odo's like, all I do is listen to Dukat and Wei Yun be stupid for hours on end. I hate my job right now. Please let me leave. Kira's like, no, we need you so we can do crimes. As a setup, I think it's a high B, low A.
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoy, like you're describing, the politics of, and it is reminiscent of the politics of the US today, of sort of like there is a conservative power in control, whether you want to call it fascist or proto-fascist or fascist adjacent, whatever, that is still kind of pretending like it's a normal government. And so then you have all of these people on the fringes of that who are also participating in the illusion, because it's sort of like, well, if we stop pretending, then they're going to stop pretending, and then this is going to get really bad. But there is this palpable uneasiness among all of the characters in the show of like, okay, we're not really living our lives freely right now. We're all just kind of like pantomiming freedom, so that this doesn't look like how it looked when the Cardassians were here the last time.
Yeah, they've been around this situation before.
Yeah, and it's really, I think, it's super fascinating to see Kira Nerys in this position where she's been the rebel outside of the kind of chambers of power, and now throughout the whole show she's had to wrestle with like, okay, I'm a bureaucrat essentially. I'm part of the establishment now, and what does that mean for me? And now she really is that, and she's with Odo figuring out, okay, is it good for us for you to be part of the council of the station, or does that just make us collaborators? Is it a good thing that I'm going to ops every day and saying good morning to Dukat, or am I just kind of like slipping into being a part of the machine? And so we set that up here, but she is going to wrestle with that a lot more over the next couple episodes. And Dukat just makes it all the grosser and creepier by being one of those guys who's like, hey, where's my hug? Is kind of like what he's doing.
He's totally a where my hug at. And like to a person who he just kicked in the shins. And then he's like, but anyways, where's my hug at? And you're like, can you die? Go, as Six Detmar once said famously, go eat a bomb. That's what I wish would happen to Gul Dukat. I hate him in these. He's so hateable.
Yeah, they really Amanda was saying she saw online somewhere that the writers were worried people had started to like him too much.
Yep.
And they were like kind of missing the point of Gul Dukat. And so they make it clear like we don't like this guy. And it's really fascinating to see his sort of like racist paternalism on full display here. The way that he just is talking to people like he's expecting their gratitude and expecting them to supplicate themselves to him and thank him and be his loyal little children, and then everything will be okay. It's really gross, creepy. You're worried for Kira's safety. You watch this guy kind of effortlessly wield power, manipulate people, and I think they do a really good job of telling us as an audience, you don't like this guy. There is no good fascist. There's no, redeeming him here because he doesn't want to be redeemed by our understanding of it.
If
like,
you
this
somehow,
is what he wants.
Exactly. He's getting the thing he wants. This is good for him. If you still had any hesitation by the time you get to 612, where it's like, okay, this is the classic like captain and bad guy are stranded together episode. Let's empathize with him. And by the end of that one, you're like, oh no. Then the viewer by the end of the season should have, by the end of this chunk, no qualms hating Gul Dukat. This man has had every opportunity to redeem himself. And when presented with any sort of logic, is like, no, I'm still a little racist shitbag. Okay. All right, well, go eat a bomb. Easy.
Yep.
So where do we rank A Time to Stand?
It's a B to me. It's just kind of just washed over me on the second watch. Like, okay, yeah, they got to give us a lot of information and table setting, but it doesn't really stand out otherwise.
Yeah, let's give it a B. I think 602 Rocks and Shoals, like each of these 6 focuses on a different member of the crew, basically. And Rocks and Shoals is kind of the Kira and a little bit Jake episode. There's some interesting setup with Jake asking people, like interviewing Wei and interviewing other people. And one of the troubles that Jake runs into as a journalist, and I like that, the show made this 3-month time jump, but they really make it seem like people grew up in those 3 months, whether it's Zial or Jake or Nog. Obviously, like the young characters on the show have increased in maturity. And one of the things he struggles with is when the person he's interviewing says something heinous, and all he wants to do is be like, hold on, did you just say X? And then they don't talk to him anymore. And so he realizes that journalists, like, sometimes you have to let the subject just walk themselves into a hole and don't touch it, because isn't it? I think it's like Kira and Odo he's talking to, where they're talking about protesting, and he's like, if you guys do this, then essentially you're abolishing the right to protest on Deep Space Nine. And then they both like walk away, and he's like, I can't say that. Like, people don't like it when I say it, but that's exactly what you guys just said.
Yeah.
I feel like that script idea came from somebody who's worked in journalism, because that's such a specific, like, working your subject skill that I imagine they teach you in journalism school. It's like, yeah, you can't say it.
Yeah. I like the nuances of the Jake journalism plot where he has to figure out, like, and it's similar to Kira and Odo's position when it comes to running the station, where it's like, okay, there's a certain extent to which if I want to perform this societal function, I need like the permission of this fascist state, essentially. And so I need to do it in a way that doesn't raise their alarms or doesn't upset them. But then it's like, but if if Wei-yun is okay with sending my stories out, are my stories even any good? Like,
Yeah.
are they
Yeah.
actually doing what they need to do? If he's sort of cool with it. So they don't do a ton with Jake, but I think what they do here is pretty interesting, and
Yeah.
I like the qualms that he has to wrestle with.
Meanwhile, Kira and Odo have a great conversation in this one about this is Kira's struggle, right? Being complacent under an evil empire. And it's interesting if you've been paying attention to the show for a while, because she says, I used to hate people like me, people who just worked under the bureaucracy. You know, every other Kira episode is about the trope that we keep bringing back, the no good Nazi discussion. And she's now realizing, like, am I on the other side of that? Am I completely complacent with the people who, you know, terrorized and imprisoned my people, and now I work for them? Like, why am I okay with that? Why am I not doing everything I can? This is the episode where she's like kind of radicalized against that. And Odo, we'll talk about Odo's whole reaction to that and how he handles it, but that's what happens, I guess. Everybody approaches rebellion a little differently.
Yeah, she really wrestled. Is this the one with the priest?
Yeah,
right?
yeah, the priest who hangs herself.
Yeah. That really rocks Kira to her core, that there's a Bajoran priest who essentially says, like, this, we can't tolerate any form of Cardassian occupation. What are you doing? Like, why are you not fighting against this? Kira's sort of like, well, it's more complicated than that. And this priest publicly hangs herself to demonstrate, you know, it's not more complicated than that. It's
Evil
actually
must
pretty
be
straightforward.
opposed.
You do the right thing or the wrong thing. And yeah, Kira really has to struggle with these tough questions about, can you be an administrator in Vichy, France, and do good for the French people by doing that?
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, well, I guess somebody needs to keep the lights on. Maybe you could make that argument, but that's a really kind of a pitiful thing to defend and be like,
Yeah.
no. But I was like doing the bookkeeping.
Yeah.
We need the books to be
We've
kept.
had guys
like,
be on the show who are like, I was just a tailor, or I was an office assistant, or, you know, whatever. They've done this.
Yeah.
And she's been on the other side, like, nope, you're still bad, right? So,
Yeah.
yes, by the end, she's talking to Odo, like, I think it's time for me to actually start resisting. And this is paired really cool in a cool way against the Jem'Hadar in this episode, who Sisko and company are dealing with on planet, I think. There's like a Vorta who survives, and he's like, well, if I turn the Jem'Hadar against the Federation, then I get to live as a POW, and all the Jem'Hadar die if I stop giving them catch. And it's like, you have no morality, dude. Just,
I love that guy. Kevin,
the slimy little profiteer.
Yeah,
and even
I love
Sisko is like,
Kevin.
Sisko's like, you realize the best thing you get out of this is your life as a POW. Like, you don't leave by killing your men. We keep you. And the guy's like, I'll take my life. Like, just coward shit. Like, but in a really cool way. Yeah. And that's again paired against the Jem'Hadar, who would rather die for a cause, even if they know morally that it's wrong. They're like, yeah, but this is the cause, right? So Jem'Hadar almost parallel Kira on the opposite side, right? That great line from the Jem'Hadar at the end of the episode: "It is not my life to give up, Captain, and it never was. Like, I work for them. I agree that what they're telling me to do is bad, and I'm doing it because that's all I've ever been programmed to do, and I don't feel bad about it." But you see in his eyes a little bit of like, well, kind of accept your fate there.
Yeah. Ramata Klan is his name, which is such a good name. And he represents a struggle that I think a few characters deal with over the course of this half season. Bashir deals with this in the episode with the other like genetically enhanced people. This question of like, okay, you know, is it foolish or noble to devote yourself to a lost cause, essentially?
Right.
To sort of say like, well, I see the logic that I should like team up with the Federation here and turn against the Vorta. I probably shouldn't charge at you in a kind of like suicidal attack. But this is who I am. This is what I do. And in some ways, like, teaming up with you and surviving would mean giving up everything that is true about who I am.
Exactly.
And so it's kind of like it's my life or myself, and that's a sort of impossible decision in some cases.
Yeah, when
And
Sisko's
what
like, "You're gonna get ambushed, and we're gonna kill like all of you," and they're like, "Well, that's what they told us to do."
Yeah. And what I think is so fascinating also about his art, I love Ramata Klan in this
Uh,
episode, and I think the guy playing him does a great job. And it's set up at the beginning that before the episode started, he did disobey the Vorta or like questioned Keevan's judgment. Because there's that conversation where it's like, well, you're the first now. And he's like, no, no, no. I went against the Vorta, so I'll always be the third.
yeah.
So he has the ability to, it's not, this isn't just like a, Jem'Hadar programming thing. He can't oppose them. He could, but he makes the choice by the end that like that's not what I'm supposed to do. What I'm meant to do is to stand for the order of things, whatever it is that means.
Mm-hmm.
My devotion to the order of things is who I am. And it's really tragic and not necessarily something that I admire, but it's something that I can respect to a certain extent, because it's sort of like what other choice does he have?
Mm-hmm.
And I think he doesn't maybe really feel like his self was ever his to make decisions about.
Yeah. It's just like, yeah, you're trapped by the role you play.
Mhm.
I think this is a high A, low S. I really like
I
Rocks and
agree.
Shoals. You want to say low S?
Yeah.
High A? High A?
Hey, I think it's an A.
Okay.
I think it's
Okay.
an
Yeah. This next one,
A. Rocks and Shoals.
603, Sons and Daughters, is about exactly that. It's about Sial, and it's about, that's right, folks, everybody's favorite fail son. It's Alexander Roshenko, Worf's forgotten son from TNG, who is now a grown-ass young adult who just doesn't know how to be a Klingon because daddy never loved me, just like Austin Powers. This episode's wild. I did know somewhere in the back of my head that Alexander came back, but I thought it would be different. It's really
Yes.
sad how he comes back.
Yep. Yeah.
Because we're really put in the position of Worf where we're like, oh my god, Alexander, like last time we left him he was so young and fresh faced and he's really learning the world, and like this is a boy who comes back hardened and is depressed and is lost, just like Worf is. And the tragic thing is the way that Worf has treated him and left him to kind of like figure out things with his grandparents is like very similar to how Worf was treated. Like, you just kind of left me to my own devices in the most important developmental time of my life. So he comes back. He joins some other Klingons to help fight. He's ready to, put his life on the line. And Worf's like, you are too green for this, dude. You didn't like develop the basic skills you need. You're angry. You're hot-headed, just like I was. And it's this wonderful moment of the father seeing his son and going, it's happening again, in a really sad way. How did you feel about all the Alexander stuff in Sons and Daughters?
I never in a million years would have thought that they would bring Alexander back in a way where I would say, good job.
Yeah.
This is great. But they did it. I think it's so tough because I was content with Alexander just being something that was a background fact. Like, oh yeah, Worf has a son somewhere. Because the reality of it that this guy who we've been following and has been a core member of the crew of 2 shows has been an absentee father for like 6 years. He has not gone to see his son. That is a terrible terrible reality. Worf has been a truly bad father.
Yeah.
And it's rough to confront that fact, but I think they handle it here in a way that makes sense, and that works. That Alexander's here, he's trying to find who he is. He's trying to do something that feels like a self that he can inhabit, and Worf is learning that this was his fault and also his opportunity to do something different. So I ended up being really moved by their relationship in this one.
It's just embarrassing in the
That,
right ways that a young person is. Like when he mistakes the simulation
yeah,
for a real thing, and you're like, ugh, I'm so sorry. That's cringe.
yeah. That scene where they're fighting, they're sparring, and Worf just keeps criticizing him
Yeah.
at every single moment. It's like, dude, do you not see
What you're
that
doing?
this all of this is your fault? Like you're criticizing and yelling at your son. And I think Worf probably sent Alexander to Earth because he knew on some level that he was a bad father, that he
Yeah.
was doing that.
Uh-huh.
That he wasn't suited for it. He was critical all the time. Alexander, when we saw him before, was a somewhat sensitive child, I think, or like kind of wanted more positive reinforcement from his dad and more tenderness. And Worf found that difficult to provide. But it's not an excuse for doing what Worf did. But you can sort of understand, like, okay, this is a big flaw of yours. And you knew that it was, but you didn't spend any of this time changing that. Or you
Uh-huh.
kind of did, like he has in his relationship with Dax to an extent, but he didn't bring that to his relationship with his son.
Correct.
And now he's forced by circumstance to do it. So um, I think that scene works really well because we see the ways that Worf has refused to grow as a person, and then also the ways that the growth that he has done in other places allows him to step into a more patient and accepting role as a father by the end of the episode.
I think some people online argue that this episode's not essential because it's like, who cares about Alexander? But like, we don't get Worf episodes very often now. And if anything, it's also a Worf episode. It's like, I'd rather they do this now than never do it and us for it to ever be like, what the fuck happened to Alexander? Like, this gave me enough to be like, okay, Worf is going to continue to deal with that. And he wants to build a good relationship with his son, and he's struggling with it. That's all I really needed.
Yeah, I think an important thing about Worf as a character is he himself struggles throughout both series with his relationship with Klingonness and
Yeah.
the extent to which he is like a legit Klingon because he practices certain things and really cares about the history and the tradition, but also breaks with those traditions, sometimes opposes the Klingon High Council. So he's always kind of struggling and in tension with his identity as a Klingon,
Yeah.
and is finding himself in that. He had this moment with Martok last season where it's like, hey, man, you're cool. You're such a Klingon that you're going to join this really cool house. And so, in that way, Worf is like a son of the House of Martok now.
Yeah.
But a missing piece of that is how does Worf pass that forward to the next generation? He's done all this learning and or to the Deep Space Nine because he's not on the next generation anymore.
Oh
Come
my
on.
god.
All right.
You are.
He's done all this learning and thinking about Klingon tradition and values and history and identity and custom for himself. But he also has a son who is as estranged from Klingonness as he was. What how is he going to pass that learning forward, or what's the point of him doing all of this figuring out if it's not going to be shared with his progeny and passed forward as his legacy? So I think it's in some ways not essential because, like, yeah, Alexander's always been kind of a weird character that they just keep recasting improbably older kids to play. Like he shouldn't be a teenager by now, but Klingons become teenagers by age 8 or whatever, I guess.
Yeah. Aging
Um,
works different.
but you don't complete the Worf story
Yeah.
if he isn't a father, I think.
Correct.
And TNG knew that, which is why they introduced Alexander. And now Deep Space Nine is like, shit.
We
yeah,
gotta
we gotta figure this out.
taking on Worf means taking on his whole plot line, not just the Klingon stuff, but his family stuff.
Yeah.
And speaking of family stuff, just quickly, the B plot of this one, Dukat brings Zial on board to like get in Kira's good graces. Speaking of
Oh my god.
bad parenting, this couldn't be any less comfortable. Oh my god. Zial's art is accepted into a prestigious exhibition, and Dukat's like, Kira, come celebrate. I bought you this really beautiful dress. For like 1 second, she's like, and then she's like, I can't accept this. This is a fascist.
Yeah, what the hell?
What am I thinking? And you get to see the conflict from Zial's perspective, where she's like, Kira, don't make me choose between you and my father. And Kira at the end of the episode's like, it's your dad. You're not picking me. You got your side, homie. I don't know what to tell you, but that's your dad. That disgusting goblin man over there who's irredeemable is your dad. And he's actually the reason you're alive. And it's this really great, like, yeah, it's the family you find versus the family you're given. And I struggle with Zial's plotline a lot. And my problem with it is that most of it's used to deepen Dukat's character, as opposed to just like giving Zial the independence and decisions to make herself. But at least in this one, we are taking it from Zial's point of view, which I liked.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, Zial's position here is similar to Ramataklan's in the previous episode, which is sort of like, yeah, I could choose not to play this role, but this is the order of things. And there's just something about that that's kind of like undeniably important to me. Yeah. I know that Dukat is terrible, but he's done kind things for me. And like, that is the cycle of abuse there. And that is a kind of like toxic dynamic between the two of them. So I want to be careful. Like, I don't think that Dukat is a good father just because he's like affectionate and didn't murder his daughter, and is sad when she dies later. But you can imagine why it's so confusing for Zial, who just wants to feel like she's in the place she's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And everything about what you're told about the order of things is like, well, I'm supposed to be with my parents, but I also know I'm not really a daughter of Cardassia the way that Dukat or Damar would talk about that. I don't know where I belong. And I love the scene where they're sitting and looking at her paintings, and Kira sees like the Bajoran artistic influence, and Dukat sees the Cardassian artistic influence, and Zial's like, I just want everybody to get along. That's the point of the art.
Yeah. I'm just painting, you guys.
Yeah, it's just she's so doomed.
She's so doomed. You're right.
Also, that moment where Kira brings the dress back, she's like, fuck you, you fascist pig. I'm not going to be your girlfriend. And Dukat's like, come on, please. What about my daughter? Don't you like my daughter?
Literally wielding his daughter like a tool.
Yep. Kira leaves. And then without missing a beat, Zial comes in the room. What was that? He says, oh, just a delivery. It's this dress I got you. Here you go. Immediately turning that like setback rejection into a victory, into a moment for him to like pat himself on the back for being a good guy. So gross. And also says a lot about like the way that he kind of views romantic relationships and parental relationships as all kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Which is, I possess you. I put this dress on you. You go the place I want you to go. Say and do the things I want you to do. And you flatter me. That is what you do.
I give people stuff and then they like me.
Yeah.
Very simple.
Super gross. Super gross.
Yeah. I wish we had the Babylon 5 go to hell every time Dukat does anything. What do you rank Sons and Daughters, bud?
Probably an A, or I'd be open to an S, but I think if I were doing it myself, I would say A.
Yeah. Same here.
Yeah.
Same here.
One thing we didn't mention, I think Martok is great in this episode.
Yes. He sounds like Superintendent Chalmers.
So
did he pick up on
that?
And I had this brief panic where I was like, that's not Hank Azaria, is it? That's not Hank Azaria, is it? It's not. It's not at all.
No, it's not. But I love all the scenes where he's like, bro, I thought I knew you, but you never told me you had a son. What the hell? Oh
I
yeah,
thought we
we
were
don't
homies.
talk. Oh, you and your son don't talk? That's bad, actually. That's a problem.
That's
You need to
really
be a
bad.
better dad. Why are
Everybody
you
needs a
so
friend like
bad at this?
Martok. Yeah, everyone needs a friend who's just like, dog,
Yeah,
that's I like you, and I'm telling you, you're fucking stupid. What you're
yeah.
doing with your son is horrible.
And he's like, all right, I guess I'll step in and dad your son a bit.
Right.
And that scene where he goes to talk to Alexander and he's like, why are you here? Alexander's like, because I want to serve the Empire. Martok's like, you're full of shit. Why are you here? And
Yeah.
Alexander's like, it's a personal reason. Just give me a chance. And Martok says, I just gave you one and you failed. Like, I'm not fucking around here, bro. You got to shoot straight or you are off my ship. It's so good. I love Martok in this episode.
I'm really glad they got him on. It's like we need a Worf to be the chaotic Klingon who's got his problems and his ups and downs, and Martok is just a rock solid person.
Yeah.
Just consistent.
Yeah, he serves such a great role
Yeah.
in the story. Yeah, as like the kind of consummate Klingon. Like
Yeah.
he is the representative of Klingons and how they roll.
It's
and
just
he's real fun at it.
One of the best things DS Space Nine does is it's about adults. Like he is somebody who
Mhm.
has gone through this growth arc, and it's like, Worf, you gotta shut up and listen. You're stupid and young,
Mhm.
and I know what to
Mhm.
do. You know, he serves a great purpose. Okay, so here's where things get weird with John. We talk about behind the lines. I mentioned Odo earlier, and Odo makes some decisions in behind the lines that I'm not a big fan of. And I don't think I'm supposed to be, but I'm also confused why they happened. So,
Okay.
the episode opens with us doing a sort of ritual as a group. And it involves like that capsule or whatever that they keep. Did you understand this whole thing?
Yeah, it's like the energy cell for the weapons on the ship. And when it runs out or burns out, the mechanic will bring it into the room like, hey, this thing ran out. And then the captain's like, oh shit, you guys, we're awesome. We shot a lot of blasts from this. You guys are cool. Everyone's like, hooray. And it's really there to then be repeated later when Dax is the captain and Sisko's been promoted to a more kind of, eye in the sky role alongside the admiral, to symbolize his alienation from being on the front line, and now he's behind the lines.
Yeah.
And what is that like? So yeah, that's what's going on there.
And Kira and Rom and company are leaning now into the animosity building that we talked about last season between the Dominion and the Cardassians. They're like, it's rebellion time. The Defiant's going to come back soon and retake us. Let's start making a push. And Odo says, I'm willing to help. I'm sick of being on the stupid council. What do you need from me? And then the female changeling comes back, the unnamed female changeling. And she puts the wrench in things. She interrupts a really great Kira Odo conversation where they're like, yeah, and then like it's two smart people gassing each other up. We'll take them out. It has to happen. And then she's like, hey, Odo, I'm here. And she taps into something that we've kind of forgotten about Odo, which is, all this is happening with his relationship to Kira and his emotions, and he's a changeling again, but he, similar to Worf, is kind of distanced from the changeling identity, especially considering how the Dominion and the changelings are related. And then the female changeling comes by and she goes, we can fix that. If you want to be more in touch with us, just hang out with me more. And maybe we turn into goo together. We have a little bit of intimacy together. I understand everything way better than that girl who doesn't even like you understands you. And it's not sexual, right? I think the show does a really good job of not being like Odo. It's sensual.
Yeah, it then becomes explicitly sexual.
Sure, by the end,
the next episode. Yeah.
Yes. But within this one, it's more like you provide clarity that my unrequited love for Kira isn't providing, right? Because he tells her like, I hate how much I like Kira, and the changeling is like, who would like you is the soup. Know, that's when he's like, so can you just like tell me your name? And she's like, I've never had a name because I'm everyone. And he's like, what happens when you go back in and then come out? And she goes, I continue to be everyone. You want to be part of everyone? Maybe we could do a little Zoidberg noises. I just think that'd be cool. And it works. And she says the drop becomes the ocean. When I go back in, what happens when you leave? Well, the ocean becomes a drop, and then I go right back into the soup. And of course, like 20 minutes before it happened, I was like, something important's going to rely on Odo, and he's not going to be there because he's going to be getting soupy with Homegirl. And that's exactly what happens. So they had a chance to defend the minefield protecting Deep Space Nine from enemies entering the Alpha Quadrant. And he's not there because he's too busy being soup. He misses the cue. The whole minefield explodes, leaving them wide open. And she gave him exactly
I don't think the minefield explodes here, but something happens with the mines.
They do
because the minefield.
No, you're right.
The minefield fully explodes in episode 6, but it's something about the mines that gets fucked up.
Then it's like now Rom has to like be the last person to stop the minefield. You've now put Rom in danger, which is again what.
Yeah, he gets arrested in this one.
Yes, sorry.
Which sucks.
But the point is that Odo isn't there when he's needed because he's too busy being with the Changeling. How do you feel about this Odo development, man?
It's one of the things that when Amanda and I were starting to rewatch these episodes a couple days ago, we were like, oh yeah, it doesn't like Worf has a stupid bachelor party. And Odo has that thing with the Changeling. It's one of those plots that sucks to watch because a character that you like is doing something really stupid and bad. But it makes sense, and of course he would do this because sometimes good people do really, really stupid, thoughtless, harmful things.
Correct.
And I think Odo is always kind of like he's buttoned up and he's always making like the right choices. He's always restraining himself. At a certain point, that levee is going to break. Like nobody can bottle things up and be content in their crushing loneliness forever. So I think it works for his character and does create some tension and a little bit of heartbreak when you see. It's almost this like adulterous moment when you see kind of from like behind a nightstand that Odo is souping it up with another lady. And you're like, but you promised Kira that you wouldn't.
It's important that he doesn't like completely ruin everything. Like you said, this is not where the mines go off. But he's now created enough of a wrench in the plans that down the line caused problems. So it's forgivable. It happens. I understand you needed clarity, but I'm also like, okay, Odo, you are not somebody that I bring when push comes to shove anymore. I'm now worried because even like Kira at the end's like, what the hell? And he's like, well, I guess none of it really matters. And you're like, no, you're enlightened now. No, because Kira says like, I'm not like you. I'm not enlightened the way you are. So in my world, in the tangible reality, we're not okay, and it does matter. And I'm mad. She feels that gap grow between her and Odo.
Yep.
So this then brings us. Oh, sorry, we should rate the episode. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, one other thing that I wanted to say, I think my favorite character out of this half a season might be Damar. That guy is such an entitled little idiot. Like he's so dumb and so sneering towards everybody. And the multiple scenes where he spills his guts to Quark, but he's like, oh, I can't tell you that. But then Quark gets a couple drinks in him and he explains all of the Cardassian plans. He loses the data pad where he took notes on how they're going to kill all the Jem'Hadar. He's such a moron. And especially in, I think it's the next one or the one after, like the way that he really fumbles it with Zial is great. And then when Quark comes in to tell everybody what he learned, he comes into the room drunk. He says, I just shared a bottle of Kanar with Damar.
It rhymes. That almost felt improvised.
Yeah,
so good.
I really like that part.
I think Damar has a huge road ahead. He's got a season and a half to do some cool shit. I'm excited.
I really like Damar. That's a bad guy.
Keep tabs on our boy, especially now that Dukat's out of the picture.
Yep.
Damar power play? Maybe.
He does become Gul Damar.
That's true.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I would say behind the lines A.
Yeah. I leaned B because it made me uncomfortable, but it's okay. That's not a bad thing. That it made me
Yeah, I think
uncomfortable.
the discomfort is good.
Right.
I think it's
Right.
good.
Right. You want to move to the next one?
Yeah. Number 5.
Favor the bold.
Favor the bold.
So I heard that title and I was like, "Oh, cool! It's gonna be a Quark episode. It's about fortune. It's about gambling." And for a little bit, I was like, "Oh, maybe," but it's mostly just a lot of little conversations, and then it wraps up with um, Sisko coming back, and that's when he says, "Well, fortune favors the bold. Here we go. Begin the attack." Um, one of the plot lines concerns an encrypted message that they can communicate to Sisko, like things are bad and we need you to get back here ASAP. I'm so happy that the way that they got that message back is through Morn's present to his mom. They like wrote on the gift ribbon, like, "Come pick us up ASAP, you fucking captain." But on the way to all of that stuff, like I said, this one's just full of great little conversations.
Yep.
It might be my favorite of the 6. I guess 606 might be better, but it's just really fun. Like this is my favorite. Wayne describing a painting to Kira, and she's like, "It doesn't really have anything," and he's like, "Yeah, my people don't really have an eye for aesthetics, because we're fascist and all." And I was like, have you listened to the They Might Be Giant song, "The Communists Have the Music"? It's it's one of my favorite They Might Be Giant songs, and it's basically the the lead singer being like, "I choose the communists because they have art and culture, and the fascists may have the outfits, but I don't care about the outfits." Like, no one cares that they're really fashionable because they can't make art for shit. Fascism doesn't like create art; it destroys it. So that felt like something right out of like a leftist political textbook. Is way being like, "Yeah, for some reason we don't really know how to make things look good. It just doesn't. Our culture is like not built for that."
Yeah, and he specifically says that it's something that the founders didn't
Like
give
program
them when they
yeah.
were created. And then he's like, I guess we don't need it. Kira says, "Well, maybe your gods made mistakes." He says, "Gods don't make mistakes. Though sometimes I think it might be nice to carry a tune." And so you see like just that little bit of a lapse in faith on Wayun's part, and a kind of sadness that he is what he is and he can't really be or do anything else. That scene is so good. I agree. It's one of my favorites.
Just a memorable moment, right? Especially talking to Kira about all that. And the other big thing is that Rom is sentenced to execution for what happened last episode. And you're like, what the fuck? You become Lita, who's in the corner being like, "We just got fucking married." And Rom, the absolute king of kings, is like, "I did it. I did it for the rebellion. I don't know. I don't know if I really want to fight it. I did my best. I'm sorry. If it happens, it happens." And you're like, "No, Rom, you cannot die. I will not let you die, dude."
Yeah, I love Quark is like trying to find all these ways. How can I save you specifically? And Rom says, "Dude, it's not about me. It's about the fucking Alpha Quadrant. You have a role to play. You need to be brave." Quark's like, "What if we die?" And Rom, ice cold, "If that's what's written, that's what's written."
Damn. King.
Yeah. I love it.
Rom's perfect in this one. And so Kira tries to get the Cardassians to back out of that, or the Dominion to get out. She tries to persuade Zial to have her father show mercy. She's like, "You like your dad, right? You have a good relationship with him." This is where you're like, Dukat says so much about like, "I love my daughter. I would do anything for my daughter." And as soon as his daughter's like, "Can you do this one thing?" He's like, "I don't know about that." Which immediately breaks her confidence. She's like, "I thought you were a man of peace." And he's like, "I don't know about that. Just when it's convenient."
Yeah, I like the version of peace where I'm in charge and people do everything that I say.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna like do what you want me to do. That doesn't sound fun.
How does that plot wrap itself up? I guess just because Sisko comes back.
Then Dukat to Damar is like, "Hey, Damar, by the way, Zial's being kind of weird. Can you just convince her that I'm like a cool guy?"
Yeah.
And Damar's like, "Dude, do I have to?"
Must I?
Dukat says, "Yeah, you do. This is an order." Damar says, "Okay, fine." Damar's probably the worst person to send because he has no tact whatsoever. He
No.
takes him all of 20 seconds of talking to Zial before he's like, be a true daughter of Cardassia. She's like, I'm not a true daughter of Cardassia. He's like, okay, well, yeah, your dad should have killed you or whatever the fuck, but just do what I'm telling you to do and come with me. I don't care about this. And then Kira's like, Damar, stop it. And he says, okay, I'm going to fight you. Gets his ass beat by Kira Nerys.
Awesome.
Damar is such a dumbass. And then he goes with like a lump on his face to Dukat. And he's like, the girls were mean to me. let me arrest them, please.
And their final attempt is to be like, Odo, can you? And he's like, I'm blissed out, guys. I don't care anymore. You're like, God damn it, Odo, no. now of all time, on Pride Month?
Yeah. Odo's been sucking and fucking for 3 days straight, I'll tell you what.
I have more
canonically
correct.
He has. Because the other changeling, she says, so that is how the solids experience intimacy.
I wrote in my notes, Alan, bleep this. Alan, bleep this. I wrote. I hope you bleeped that, Alan. Good job. Anyways, the Oda stuff just makes me sad. So wait, is Rom okay though?
He gets out in the next episode.
Okay.
Quark busts him out.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Gets a gun and holds it up to the Jem'Hadar and busts him out.
Okay.
Yeah.
This one's a high A, low S to me.
Yeah, this is an A. It suffers a lot of those like part one of a two-parter problems.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't get to do all the coolest stuff, but it gets all the best character moments.
Yes.
So it feels like an A.
It ends with Sisko being like, hey, we got 1,000 ships in front of us. Fortune favors the bold. Deuces! And then next episode. He doesn't say deuces, but wouldn't that be cool?
That would be cool. It would be cool if he put on some sunglasses and he's like, time to get deep into space.
9.
Okay. Then we got Sacrifice of Angels, episode 6.
The last episode in this first arc. Incredible mic drop moment from Dukat early in the episode, talking to Wei Yun. Just the animosity between these two men is boiling. Tell me, Wei Yun, have you ever been diagnosed as anhedonic? It's just like, bro read his dictionary.com word of the day and was like, I'm gonna cook this guy. But Wei Yun is also annoyingly smart, so he goes, no, I've never been diagnosed as not having emotion. Shut up. I feel it all the time. I hate you. I'm not negative or whatever. He starts saying stuff about like the Bajoran people are so lucky to have me as their liberator. And I wrote in my notes, okay, cool. This guy has to go in the meat grinder now. This is it for Dukat. If I didn't hate him by now, then I hate him. I truly can say that I hate him. The operation begins. We get a bunch of CG action scenes. Again, just Babylon 5 did it as well, if not better. Sorry. There's a really funny subterfuge. This one also has some like spy movie comedy stuff in between all the action. The bomb souffle thing, where they bring a souffle to a Cardassian. Is it Garrick? I think. And he's like,
no, Garrick is with everybody else in space.
Okay.
Remember, he's got his own little communicator. He's out in space.
Oh, you're right.
Because he's the only one that can wear the Vegeta power scanner
without getting hurt,
without getting a headache.
It's true.
No, it's Zial and Quark together. That's how Quark gets in and frees Rom.
Right. He's like, don't touch it. It's a souffle. And the guy immediately is like, I'm touching that souffle. Puts it, knocks him out on the back or whatever. I was like, fuck yeah. So they rescue him. Sisko orders the Defiant. This is the wild part. What are we going to do? Everybody's on the other side. The bomb arrays gone off. We have no defenses left. I'm going through the Defiant. You're like, Sisko, that's a death wish for sure. And Sisko sees beyond the fourth wall for a moment and goes, but I'm the prophet. They don't let me die. He like has this moment of clarity of like almost third person clarity. Because they go through, he's about to pass through, and then they do the thing where it's like the prophets are talking to him, played by everyone else, and they're like, whoa, you're not allowed to die. What are you doing? What are you doing? You can't just hit the die button. And he's like, well, it's the only option I had. And they're like, Okay, and they say it obviously in like prophetese, like, oh, the destiny is not. But what they mean is like, you gamed the system. Wait, now we have to keep you alive and make some bullshit. We have to basically Deus Ex Machina you. So he comes back and suddenly all the ships on the other side just warp away, like unexplained. They're just like, oh yeah, they're gone. They just decided not to be here. So he gets to live. And there's no more Dominion on the other side of the wormhole. So then he comes back to the wormhole, goes to Deep Space Nine, is like, we got it, we're taking it over, easy, slam dunk. You think the episode's almost over, and then in a moment of like Shakespearean poetry, Dukat sees the battle is raging. He's like, we're getting off of Deep Space Nine. I'm taking her back with me. The only thing I care about is that Sial comes home with me. Everything else, I don't give a fuck what happens to Deep Space Nine. All I need is Sial. Where's Sial? Anyways, where's Sial? Oh, she helped the crew get out. Oh, your right-hand man is mad about that. He shoots. Who's he trying to shoot someone else, and then she blocks it or something?
No, he shoots to kill her. Yes,
Kills
Damar
Sial.
kills
Damar kills
Sial.
Sial. Ah!
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Dukat. You don't even get that. And I'm sad. R.I.P. Sial. She's awesome. I'm bummed about it. She helped out. She was a part of the resistance, but like, the last moment is Sisko arrives at the station. Dukat's in a holding cell, and as he's like escorted to the infirmary with like nursing his wounds, he returns Sisko's baseball to him. I believe this is yours. You've won. This is the baseball representing the, and last season he left the baseball. Oh, it's so good, dude. I wish this was the season finale.
I know. Yeah, it feels very season finale. It's such a good episode. All of the Dukat stuff is great. I love his body language with the baseball throughout the episode up to this point. He's aggressively throwing it into his own hand, where he's like, things are fine. Everything's going to be cool. We're going to counter them and it's going to be great. And then when he's a prophet voice, he's like playing with the baseball between his fingers like this, like kind of balancing it between his index fingers. So all the physicality there is really good. And then his utter crash out, like such a legendary crash out on Dukat's part, like you were saying, when everything's going to shit and all the Dominion people are like, okay, let's just retreat and we'll figure this out later. And Dukat says, no, wait, this is it. This is all that was important. Why are we just leaving? This is everything. All my stuff is here. What? Why is this happening again? And I think it's pretty genius the way that they have him go to Zial in this moment, because you could read it as like he's a loving father who wants to make sure his daughter is safe, but you could also read it as like the conqueror who's losing all of the things that he's conquered. It's like, what is the last thing that I can still possess? And that is my daughter. Let me go find her and kind of like console myself feeling like I still am in control of something. And it's like almost intimate when they reunite and their faces are so close to each other. He's like, yeah, I love you. Oh my God, this is amazing. Don't tell me that you helped the bad guys. So
don't say it.
Don't say that. And this whole episode, Damar, it really feels like there's a conversation between them early in the episode where he's like, Zial doesn't know how to be a good daughter. And what he wants to say is like,
I know how to be a good daughter.
I would be a great daughter to you.
Yeah, 100%.
Let me be your daughter, daddy. And then he tries to take his rightful place as Dukat's daughter by killing her, and is rejected, which is, pretty funny and sad.
This is as S-tiered of an episode as it gets for me.
Yeah, it's great. There are also these little moments where Miles and Bashir are quoting the Charge of the Light Brigade to each other, the Tennyson poem.
That's what it was.
And it reminded me that I have a coworker who she'll quote that sometimes if like a decision is made that's above our pay grade.
Whoa.
Because there's a line in it. There's not to make reply, there's not to reason why, there's but to do and die. So it's when she's sort of like, it's not our problem.
Not mine.
Like ours is not to reason why. So it reminded
what a cool
me
thing for your coworker to do.
Yeah.
I think this is a sterling S. I think this is a wonderful episode.
Very good episode. Garrick I wrote in my notes, Garrick daps up Martok before checking on Bay, which is a funny way to remind myself what happened.
Yeah.
He goes to the med bay and Kira's like,
Oh,
she
babe.
loved you. And Garrick says, I could never figure out why. I guess I never will.
Oh,
So sad.
Garrick.
What a sad little moment for Garrick.
Need more Garrick. Need more Garrick. Any other notes on this one?
I don't think so. There's some cute Nog stuff where he learned. Maybe that was a previous episode, but Miles tells him like, "Oh, whoever's the highest ranking person on the ship is captain." And then he's like, "Oh, so if I was the highest ranking, I would be captain?" And Miles is like, "Well, yeah, but everybody else would be dead.
That'd be really bad. Who are you captain of, dummy?"
Yeah. Anyway, Sacrifice of Angels, S tier. Nice.
Do you want to take a quickie break?
Yeah, let's take a quickie break.
Okay. Be right back to discuss the second half of Deep Space Nine Season 6, Part 1.
Hello and welcome back to TrekChatz, celebrating 20 years of Star Trek podcast coverage. Just kidding. 20 episodes. TrekChatz 20. Deep Space Nine, Season 6, Part 1. I'm Magellan. That's Alan. Hey, Alan.
Hola. I'm here.
Hola. Hey, you are cordially invited to talk about the second quarter of episodes from Season 6.
True.
Starting with episode 7, you are cordially invited. This is the wedding episode. Dax wedding episode. And of course, in the storied tradition of annoying TV wedding episodes, everything has to go wrong. And the couple's like, maybe we shouldn't get married. I don't know. I find this to be an annoying trope. I don't like it. Because it's like if you have fissures this deep in your relationship, that can
Why are you getting married?
Cracked open. Yeah, like you should have talked about this before, guys. But it's TV, so everything has to happen within the span of the episode. Okay, that's fine. I'll accept it. What did you think of You Were Cordially Invited?
It's really cute. It's really sweet. And it came at a good time after all of this wacky stuff. It's like, oh wait, we never got married. I thought the Ram and Lita stuff was the kind of like, oh my god, everything's going bad, but we got married. I agree though. If you actually know anything about like how marriages can last long term, then you're like, is this a healthy? Because they make good points about like, oh well, you guys are very different from each other. You complement each other in really good ways. But like, and I'm not saying you should marry someone who is your complete and polar opposite. You know. The amount of times that Dax, I actually like the jokes where Dax messes with him and says like, you know, he's like, did you get these candles from Klingon? And she's like, yeah, I actually slayed a monster and like turned its tusks into wax and then shaped it. And he's like, really? And she's like, no, I bought them from a store or I made them in the replicator. But he makes good points. Like if you're going to like be a part of my culture and do all my rituals, then like do them. I know you might think that they're ridiculous or barbaric, but like you chose to marry me, and and that's the start that felt like really close to real life. You know, this is a common issue when people get married. It's like, how do I engage with your culture in a respectful way without like giving up what I believe in? How do we find compromise there? All that stuff is good and fine and well, but I was like not blown away by this one, tbh.
Yeah, I think by the second half of the episode, they get to what is a pretty important aspect of the Dax-Worf relationship, which is the moment where she says, maybe you're on a spiritual journey, Worf, but I just want to get married. Because it's like, if you have a symbiont within you, if you have been married before, if you've lived a life as Dax has, there's only so much specialness that you can ascribe to getting married because
Right.
it has kind of lost the luster of this like once in a lifetime thing. And I think in some ways, you know, what that stands in for is a relationship where one partner maybe has a lot more experience than the other, or has been in a really serious relationship before, or is just generally more cynical about marriage. Maybe their parents didn't have a great relationship, so they don't really ascribe a lot of like sanctity or magic to the act of getting wed. And they'll sort of go along with, okay, sure, you want to do it in this particular way, whatever, that's fine. But when you just kind of like appease your partner and go along with it because you want them to be happy with it, but you're not invested in it, they can tell that you're not invested, and
Exactly.
it harms the relationship. Um, so that part of this, I think, is pretty um, well executed and explored in a good way. And I love later the conversation that Sisko has with Dax, where it's like, okay, maybe this isn't special to you, but like, you are the older one here. You're
Yeah.
supposed to be mature enough to know that you chose to get into this situation, and Worf is your partner. Like, you gotta respect him.
Yeah.
If you don't have respect for him and his culture and customs,
Then what are you
then
doing?
like, why are you doing this? Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um, so I like that that's where we get in this episode, this fundamental thing of like, you can have your differences, but it needs to be built upon a foundation of mutual respect. And that
Right.
is the thing that needs to be tended to and repaired in order for this to work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I kind of end up being like, okay, I like the Dax Worf relationship. I was getting a little annoyed of it, but I think it ends up being charming.
No, they reach a good point for sure. The
Yeah.
part that I found so goofy and like not memorable was all the bachelor party stuff. I mean, it's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny. The Kalhaya is filled. This is quote filled with song and fellowship, unbridled
Mhm.
pleasure. Baby, that's actually gayer than a bachelor party. What are you talking about? It's like a big fuck sesh for all the boys. Because O'Brien and Bashir are like, let's go. It's gonna be sick. I'm like, I know what you are. And on Pride Month, how dare you, homosexual men? But the episode doesn't spend a lot of time with that. It's mostly like, it's a tradition. They do it basically just is a bachelor party. Like, why make it a Klingon metaphor if it's just gonna be we like go on a big adventure? It's just more like we get fucked up. Like it's a hard fought bachelor party is the implication, because they're miserable when they get back, and then the final
Yeah.
beat is that after the couple gets married, they like chase and try to attack them. But I think they describe it as both as like payback for the ceremony and to like make sure they're sharp for the battles ahead or something
Yeah,
like that.
and it like reenacts the wedding of Kalis and his bride because there was some
Oh.
enemy who tried to kill them on the day of their wedding, kind of thing.
Cute.
Yeah, it's cute. I think the Klingon bachelor party stuff is a little silly. Like, oh yeah, you can't eat that food, Alexander. It's there to tempt us. And
We're
also there's the
fasting.
don't worry, there's the blood ritual that's coming soon. It's sort of like, okay, we get it, we get the joke. But I think what it functions to do within the themes of the episode is it contrasts the way that these guys engage with this contrasts with the way that Dax engages or doesn't engage with her half of the stuff. And it kind of, for us as an audience member, primes us to feel like, oh, this Klingon stuff, it's really silly. Why would anybody do this? But then it gives it a little weight to when Sisko comes around later in the episode and he's like, bro, you're marrying this guy. Like, I think this stuff is kind of dumb too, but I've been fasting for the last 3 days because that's my boy right there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going to show up for my guy
Mm-hmm.
for his wedding and do the stuff. So, like, you don't get to just opt out of this because you're grumpy. You do the stuff that your friend wants you to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is like the more serious function that it's serving, along with just comic relief. Like, oh, that sounds pretty fun. Oh, wait, we got to sweat all day? Oh, shoot.
Remember, like when Quark's trying to give O'Brien and Bashir the big sandwiches, and they're like, "Oh, finally!" And then they're like, "You can't eat that. The wedding's on." And they're like, "Oh man!" Then they're like, "No, the wedding's off. Fuck you!" And they're like, "Sandwich?" That part's funny as hell.
Yeah. Also, it still baffles me that the Deep Space Nine can withstand like four of its most senior officers
Just
just
leave it.
kind of sweating it out for
Uh-huh.
4 days and not doing their jobs. But
Really
okay,
goes to show
sure.
you how senior leadership works. Like, do you actually need a C-suite?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you do. Yeah, the great line from the Sisko and Dax conversation was, "You can't expect Sorella to treat you like Curzon." Like Sorella being the woman
Yep.
from the House of Martok, I think. And she like has to talk
Martok's
to
wife. Yeah.
Martok's wife. Yeah. Talks to Dax and like Dax is like, you told me to look into your history and I found out you're descended from a concubine. And she's like, fuck you, I didn't say you could mention that. The wedding's off. There's like over and over again the threat of the wedding's off is like wielded in this episode to the point by the end where you're like, yeah, that joke of it's off. No, it's not. No, it's off. Becomes silly because you know it's gonna be on. Come on now.
Yeah.
I've known this episode was coming forever.
Yeah.
That there was Dax Worf wedding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this episode does an interesting thing with the Dax character, where there is that tension between Jadzia and Dax, where
Yes.
on the one hand, Jadzia is a young person who's new to this culture and trying to ingratiate herself. So she needs to sort of kiss up to like the matriarch of the family and be in the posture of a learner. And that is also like the mature thing to do. Whereas for the Dax side of it, like you're saying, there's this past life as Curzon and all of this familiarity with and knowledge of Klingon culture. And there's a kind of a sense of entitlement of like, I don't want to be the little kid who kisses up to the wife because I am older than her. I've lived like 6 extra lifetimes beyond how long she's lived. So this all feels so stupid. Like I just want to do what I want to do. I want to watch this hot guy twirl fire around and hang out with my ladies because it, like, why would I do things I don't want to do?
Yeah.
Which is like, in some ways makes sense, but in some ways is like the deep immaturity of being immortal. Yeah. And like being so old that now you're like, fuck it, this stuff is all fake and doesn't matter. And it's like, okay, well, that's kind of rude and dismissive.
Some of us care.
Yeah. So at first I was a little frustrated with the immaturity, but by the end of the episode, I could see how it made sense and actually said a lot about what it must be like to be a symbiont and that whole vibe.
Yeah. What would you rate this one?
This is like a solid B for me, I think. There's like a little bit too much of like, oh, Lita is like, ooh, who's that hot guy twirling the fire, which I don't love. And there's some of that like, Sorella, she's my wife and she cucks me and I'm into it. And I don't love that part of it either. Just a bit too much dumbness, but there's cuteness. I like that Alexander is now just a huge klutz and telling stories about how much of a klutz he is. That's pretty charming.
Big Dorcas.
Yeah. But I would say a B.
I would too. I just want to emphasize to listeners who are like, oh my God, I've wanted you guys to get to this one for so long. It's fun. It is fun, but it just doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not fun in the ways I wanted it to be necessarily. It's not like too thought provoking. Yeah, it lightens the mood after some serious stuff. It comes at a good time, but like, and also we're just in a streak of, this is the lowest streak we're entering of DS9 season 6. So in retrospect, I'm like, ugh, this is just part of the bad chunk of episodes, but it's not by itself. It's like quite good. 6 or 7.
Yeah, I don't think it's the best iteration of Worf is more traditional and Dax is more kind of devil may care. I think they've done episodes that are better versions of that, or we've just kind of seen that tension before. I'm also at a point right now where I really dislike men who value tradition because it just makes me think of like red pilled, like I want to traditional wife. Like Worf would be watching all those MRA
You think so?
podcast
Probably.
type things. I think so, and I couldn't get that out of my head, which is maybe a silly reason to be turned off by it, but
I get it. I get it.
yeah. One thing we didn't mention that I thought was a really charming character touch is Odo comes to bust up the bachelorette party, and then Kira's like, dude, we need to talk. He says, okay. And they just go sit in a closet and talk for the whole night. Hours and hours and hours. They talk about everything. We don't need to see a word spoken between the two of them. The episode can just say they had that thing where sometimes you go to a party and you like get deep with one of your friends, like real deep, talk about some real shit. We've all been there. It's happened.
Sure.
You go into the closet, you check your watch. It's midnight. You check it again. It's 5 a.m. Oh,
Oh.
great talk. I'll see you later. I thought that was such a good way to handle that, the falling out between the two of them without having to come up with like, okay, but what do they say?
Yeah, what's the
to each
dialogue?
other? Because you can't resolve that in a conversation, in a single scene. It has to be hours and hours and hours of plumbing the depths of, well, what did it feel like when you were in the Great Link, and
Yeah.
that hurt my feelings when you did that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Also, I don't know if this happens to you, but Paramount Plus will sometimes just like randomly put on subtitles in another language.
It doesn't happen to me. But that's, I've heard you mention it before.
I don't know why it is, but sometimes I'll turn it on and it's like, okay, today we got the French subtitles by default.
It's not even the same one every time?
No, it's been Italian, it's been French. I had German the other
What?
day. I don't know why it does it. But the Great Link in French is called Le Grand Flux.
It's
So
you.
isn't that kind of fun?
Le Grand Flux. That's
Oh,
you.
like FLUX. Yeah.
Okay, Flux. Okay, the great flux.
Flux.
Flux,
Yeah.
yeah. That's awesome. I thought you meant like your
Yeah, I
last
like
name.
that. I wish.
Hmm.
All right, let's talk about episode 8, Resurrection.
Can we not? Can we not? I hated this.
You hated this?
I was so bored. Ah! I think in theory it's fine, right? So this is Mirror Vedic Brile comes from the Mirror Universe to be like, hey, Kira, I'm back. And at first she's like, oh, is it because you're scared of Mirror Kira? She's a tyrant, whatever. No, he's actually working with Mirror Kira, except then he double crosses her because she's shitty and mean. And so he works with Kira, but she's like, dog, you gotta go. We can't have you here. You fucked everything up. That's kind of the whole episode. But if you want to watch Nana Visitor be Mirror Kira, which I kind of always do, then like it gets you where you need to be. But this episode felt like fluff to me. Truly fluff.
Yeah.
Tell me how you felt
That's
about it, though.
fair. I totally forgot about it. I watched it when I first watched these. It was the last full episode I watched the first time through the season. And I think Amanda and I ended it like, okay, that was kind of bad. Start the next one.
Yeah.
And then I'll talk about it. But the first 5 minutes of the next one, we were like, nope, we're out.
Oh my god, the next
We're
one?
not
Yeah,
doing this
yes. Yes.
So we were definitely underwhelmed by it at the time. And then when I was reminded of what it was, I was like, oh yeah, it's like Mirror Universe Burial, and he's like a thief with a heart of gold kind of thing. Okay. But watching it, I really liked it the second time around. I thought it was really moving. I think I probably liked Burial more than most people.
Okay.
Is my sense.
Original
Like
Burial.
original Burial. Yeah. I don't know. There's just something about like he's this guy who knows that he carries this great burden and responsibility, and he doesn't exploit that. He tries to manage that power and influence with restraint, and still carve out time to be himself and be in love. And he just had to kind of choose his duty to others over his duty to the people that he loved, and his duty to himself. And it's a tragic thing. So it's nice to see the actor returns, that Kira can grieve and experience a bit of catharsis with this version of Burial. and she can kind of, in the relationship, take on the role of Vedic Barile a little bit. Like, I'm gonna be the wise person
Sure.
who's speaking to you about like the good that's within you, the person that you can be, the choices that you're able to make, and the power that you have in your situation. And at the same time, there's this complicated thing of, well, maybe I just want to save him because he looks like my dead boyfriend,
Right.
and that feels
That's what
weird.
I didn't like.
Yeah. There is a lot. What I really don't like about this one is that he's just kind of walking around, because it's like, isn't the mirror universe supposed to be kind of secret?
Yeah. What the hell?
We're just letting him walk around the station. That was a bit strange. But I don't know. It kind of had the vibe to me of, to a certain extent, that one B5 episode, written by Scandal 100% noted Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
I forget what that episode was called, but it was the one where like everybody's visited by the ghosts, and they like hang out with the ghosts of their friends and the people they loved.
Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead. It kind of had a Day of the Dead vibe.
Yeah.
Where Kira gets to have the one more day with Barile,
Yeah.
but it's a different version of him, and it's different in an interesting way, I think. And gets you to think about the ways that a life can go. This guy that was sort of like the charismatic leader of men in another life could be a street rat who thinks that he's destined to be nothing more than that, and like can't accept, even when he sees the vision in the orb of a happy life, he just can't accept that he could have that.
No, I think the performance of Barile's good. I will give you that.
I think he does a good job. Yeah.
Two other things of this episode that I do like, my stray notes and my favorite things about the app. Number one, where is it? Quark is excited by the potential to make people pay to see the ghost of Vedic Barile. And Barile's like, I'm not evil like you. I'm not a bad you're a bad person for doing that. That's really beyond the pale and I won't do it. Quark's like, come on. It's easy money. See, it's the difference between Gul Dukat and Quark. Is Gul Dukat, you're like, you're irredeemable. And Quark's like, you're irredeemable, parentheses, affectionate. Like, sometimes I just like that. Because Quark's stuff doesn't also lead to a genocide. Quark is just money hungry.
Yeah.
It's in his culture. The second thing I like is the scene where Mirror Kira, dressed as Kira, gets a guard to, like, get distracted by being like, come on, I just want, like, a little massage, Mr. Bajoran guard. He goes, okay. Gives her a massage. And she beats his ass. I'm like, dude, oldest trick in the book. Not even subtle.
Yeah. She says, you have a lot to learn about giving a massage.
Yeah. Bop.
Very funny.
What do we like? What do we rate it, babe?
I don't know. I'm feeling a B, but if you feel strongly that it's a C, we could do that.
It's a C to me. It's a strong C, but it's a C. It could be so bad it's good. No, it doesn't feel like it's that.
No, I'm willing to concede C, but in my heart, I would rate it higher.
If there's another one that you want to rate higher that I want to rate lower, I'll give you it. I'm
Okay.
giving you a bargaining chip down the line.
That's a good trade.
To be redeemed whenever on TrekChatz. So,
nice. Thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on. Oh, I think we can agree that we didn't like this next one, huh? Statistical probabilities.
It gets good.
Yeah. It gets better. Once you get over the problematic nature of its core premise, then it's like, oh wait, there's a good idea in here. But
yeah,
you guys really walked yourself into a weird, like, disability neurodivergent metaphor thing that I'm not into at all.
Yep.
In statistical probabilities, Bashir works with a group of genetically engineered, socially maladjusted savants to help them become members of society. And meanwhile, there are peace negotiations with the Dominion, and the savants determine that the Dominion is going to win the war, and that statistically they should just surrender. So Bashir struggles with, like, do I tell people that? And if I do we do it? Or, and then at the end, they're like, well, actually, human emotion, like, supersedes math and numbers, and you can't account for people's, better angels or whatever. So we're not going to concede.
Yeah. when we first turned this one on, and it was
Jack doing the voice.
Jack, and he's like doing these twitches and doing a stammer, but I mean, I don't know if the actor speaks like that, but it did not seem that way to me. Uh, it just felt very like we're doing One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest type of stuff here.
Yes.
And that was weird. So immediately Amanda and I were like, nope, we can't do this
Nope.
one. Let's see what the next one's all about. So returning to this one, I'd already had that experience of like, please. And because of that, I set it aside and just sort of approached the rest of the episode for what it was. So I think taking all of the experience I had both times I sat with the episode, it was very off-putting. But once you can kind of get over that, there's some, and if you accept the premise that like these genetically enhanced people are like super geniuses who can make these projections about the future, which in and of itself is like
Weird.
kind of a hard thing to believe.
Yeah.
And yeah, does play off of kind of like disability tropes and neurodiversity tropes of like, well, if we just kind of do a Rain Man thing where they have a weird affect, then you'll believe that they're a super genius.
Yeah.
In a way that you can't even comprehend. Once you take all of that and you just approach this episode as like, there is a trolley problem in front of you. The trolley problem is either we keep doing the war and billions and billions of people die, or we let the Dominion win real quick and only some billions of people die. Then it becomes interesting, I think. Yeah. And gets at that theme I was talking about with the Ramada Clone episode of like, you know, when you continue upon a path that is like illogical, but is powered by the strength of your convictions, is that the right choice? When Sisko's like, no, I can't surrender. Surrendering's stupid. Like, we need to fight. We can't just give up. Is that right because he's sticking to his values, or is that foolish because, you know, the data doesn't lie, a bunch of people are going to die if you do that?
And if somebody could, in theory, tell you that with certainty, then wouldn't you want to do it? Like, wouldn't you want to just surrender and save a lot of lives? But, like, we're talking the scale of generations, right? Bashir is, like, will be under their rule for maybe 100 years, maybe a few hundred years, but then eventually a rebellion will rise up again. And it's not the Luthen Rail conversation from Andor Season 1, where it's like, I work for a revolution that I'm never going to see. It's like, we're gonna surrender for a revolution we're never going to see, which is just such a depressing worldview.
We will live the rest of our lives under Dominion rule and die hoping that our grandchildren will revolt.
Exactly. Yeah, that just bums me out. So I was kind of glad with the decision they made, but I don't feel equipped to talk about like the disability representation in this one. The different characters, the nonverbal girl. There's Jack, who does a backflip because he's hyperactive. There's the old man who's kind of funny when he walks up to the garden and goes, I'm Patrick. Sometimes I think that's fun. And then there's just the one whose personality is hot woman. What? What if woman hot and really laid down all sexy? Huh?
Yeah, that I was like, what the fuck are we doing? Why is this a thing? At least the rest of them, there's like, okay, you're trying to do something, like I guess this is an ADHD thing or an autism thing or something, social anxiety, whatever.
All of the above.
But yeah, her, it's like, what? She's so smart that she wants to fuck you. I don't quite understand.
Baffling. This is a C to me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think C is fair.
I hope I'm not too mean.
No, I think that's right. I really like the scene where they get really into watching Gul Dukat give his speech.
Yeah.
And Dukat is giving this like pathetic speech about Cardassia is doing great. We're gonna ask for peace. and they're sitting there absolutely reading him to filth, quoting Shakespeare and being like, he doesn't believe this, completely analyzing the situation. Then we get the next scene where they are in a hollow suite watching the tape of Sisko negotiating with Damar and Wei-Yun, and they're like pausing it and turning on the native language features and stuff. I think all that is pretty fun. The way that this episode weaves in the overall plot, I think, is smart. But yeah, C for statistical probabilities.
Let's keep it rolling, though. We got 610, the Magnificent Ferengi, which tries to be a Magnificent Seven thing, but then realizes that they don't have 7 Ferengi on the show.
So we watched 5 minutes of the previous episode, and then Amanda famously is not a fan of Quark. Definitely not a fan of like Ferengi episodes. So we see the next one is like a Ferengi episode, and we go, "Dang it!
No!
Oh my gosh, season 6. What are we doing?" So I watched this one. We watched about half of it, and then I rewatched all of it today. I really like Ferengi episodes where it's Quark and Rom, and we see their brother. I love Rom. I love when he's top build or second build in an episode. We bring back all these shitty Ferengi guys.
Yeah.
I think this episode is pretty cute.
The one thing is that the celebrity cameo in this episode feels bizarre. Did you catch the celebrity cameo in this one?
Was it the Vorta guy?
Yeah, that's Iggy Pop.
Who was that? That was Iggy Pop?
Yeah, as soon as you hear the voice, you go, "Oh my god, that's Iggy Pop. Oh my god, that's Iggy Pop."
I was like, why does this guy sound so weird?
Correct. I had the exact same thought. He kind of talks like this. It's like, are you doing a John Wayne? No, not exactly, but I don't have any tone to my voice. It's Iggy Pop.
He was awful at this episode.
He just sucks. He sucks the energy out of the scenes that he's in. Because he's just so, come on, you Ferengi, get it together. What? Who are you?
He's not doing, like, there's nothing wrong with that performance necessarily if he was just some other alien guy. But he's a Vorta, and we've seen 3 or 4 Vorta at this point.
Yeah.
And they've established what the Vorta are like. They're kind of losery, slimy, like, always trying to talk you into a corner. Suck up to you, but manipulate you at the same time. And he has none of that energy. It honestly, when I was watching it, felt like in the editing room, the editor was like, I don't like this guy's performance. I'm just going to like ADR myself reading the lines. And it's just some guy who's like, oh, you Ferengi, what the heck? Get out of here. I don't like this deal. So, that was very off-putting, but also kind of funny.
The other celebrity,
Kevin came back, and that was great.
Shout out to Kevin.
Who was the other celebrity?
In the Sons and Daughters episode with all the Klingons, Gabrielle Union's one of the female Klingons. Fucking why not? Gabrielle Union's just in it.
Sure.
And she had. This is before Bring It On. This is before her career actually blew up.
Well.
Anyways.
There you go.
Yeah, Pop's weird. I agree though. This one's just like fun and light, getting everyone together. Oh, remember this guy? Oh my god, the assassin, you're here. And then them all being like, we aren't a Magnificent Seven. We don't fight. Like Ferengi don't use guns. Can we talk them through it? And they do. And it's like, oh, we saved Mom. Hooray, Moogie. Yay. It's nice to see Moogie. Moogie. It's cute. It's harmless. I think it's a B episode.
Yeah. I thought it was an A, but B is fair, I think.
I think Iggy Pop brings it down for me.
That's fair.
My big thing.
There's so many fun comedy moments, and they do a kind of like, it's a heist episode where everybody has a role, but then everybody's role is not that important, and then they have to suddenly do their roles when the moment comes, which is funny. Let's see, some of my favorite jokes. The moment where Quark finds Rom, and Rom goes, "You found me. Now you go hide, and I'll look for you." To tell Quark, like, get the fuck out of here, I'm working. It's so funny. Another Rom moment when Quark is explaining that their mother is dating the Nagus, and Rom is just going, "No,
Can you stop? No, no.
no,
It's so funny. Yeah, this is funny. You're right. No. I don't know how to tell you this, Ron, but your mom is fucking the great nigga. She is directing the Ferengi economy. Signaling. No.
We bring in Murder Guy for no reason. Have we seen like the assassin Ferengi guy before?
Yeah.
And
I think he's one of the ones who tried to kill Quark when Quark was like, I'm gonna die.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. We got our shitty cousin out of jail. Stupid sexy Brunt is here. That's all good. Nog is trying to put them through their paces as the military guy.
I'm so happy that they're like, you know whose help we need? Nog. Like Quark and Rom are like, we need Nog's help. That makes me feel so good about how this boy has grown up.
Yeah. Kevin is such a loser, and then they shoot him, and then they have to weekend at Bernie's his body.
And it twitches when they hit it in certain ways.
It's great.
And I think one of the Vorta's like, why did you do that? That's awful.
Yeah. What did they do to him? It's a fun one. They also they do a smart thing where they say, oh, we'll meet you at the place from the last season, the other Cardassian space station. Don't worry, it looks just like Deep Space Nine, so we can use the same set, but we can run around and not worry about running into people.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Pretty smart. My last thought on this, I want to pour one out for Lita in these episodes because they really make her dumb and give her like stupid lines. There's a lot of like, oh no, Rom, like that kind of ditzy stuff. And I wrote in my notes, I was like, imagine if you were a recurring character on a big show and all you got to say in weeks was, I love syrup of squill on my groat cakes, but I haven't seen a box in over a year. And then your next line is, well, that's dishonest. And that's all you get to say.
And then, all right, thanks, guys. I'm going to go out of costume now. Bye.
See you next week.
I mean, it's a job, right? They just get a job. But they have bimbo-fied.
It's a job.
Lita was established as a bimbo. She's kind of had parabolic development. Where it's like, oh, wait, she's actually really interesting and smart. And her Bajoran identity. Oh, nope, nope, we're not doing that anymore. Yep. We're back to bimbo mode. Okay. It's fine. I appreciate a bimbo archetype because I relate, but also, yeah, I agree with you.
It works for me if that character gets to say and do a lot. If they're like a main important character who is in that archetype.
Mm-hmm.
But if like 20% of their screen time is Damar being like, ooh, your boobs are out, then it's like, although that moment was pretty funny when Damar's like, you shouldn't have anything to hide. You certainly don't. And then the camera lingers on him and he has a little smile like, I just said a really funny joke. I'm Damar. But yeah, Damar. Lita deserves better. Hopefully we get better Lita stuff later in the season.
Agreed. Let's give this one a B.
Yeah, B sounds good. Now, episode 11, Waltz.
Whoa. It's the episodes with the single word title that always blow me away.
Yeah. This is the Dukat episode. So Sisko and Dukat are on their way to take Dukat to like a war crimes tribunal type of thing. On the way, Dukat says, hey, do you think I'm guilty? Sisko says, I haven't seen the fullest of charges. It's just a pretty funny response.
This is okay. Yeah, sorry. Finish your summary. I'm jumping right over you.
They get attacked I think they get attacked, right? The ship.
By Cardassians.
So then they crash onto a planet. They're stranded there in a cave. You may recognize this cave set from such episodes as Klingon Bachelor Party and Dukat hurts his butt and Kira laughs at him when they hung out that one time. I'm convinced it's the same cave. And
or Enemy Mine.
Enemy Mine. That's the vibe. Enemy Mine. Mm-hmm. They're stuck here and Dukat is determined to have Sisko tell him what he really thinks about him.
Tell me
That's
you
what
like
he's
me.
desperate for.
But be honest, I want you to mean it.
Tell me you like me, but make it real. But tell me you hate me, but don't lie to me.
Yeah.
Come on. Also, he's lost his grip on reality, so he's having hallucinations of other people that he's talking to.
Tamar, Wayun, Kira.
And it essentially is an episode that's about completely deconstructing this mask of Dukat's as like, well, I'm the good, noble liberator guy. And it's like, let's really see what's underneath that, what you really think and feel about the Bajoran people and about yourself.
Okay. Cards on the
What did you
table.
think of it?
Cards on the table. My favorite episode of the season.
Okay.
I love Gul Dukat. And I think Sisko has had plenty to do this season, but not like directly with Dukat. You know, we've had him do this kind of thing with Eddington and with the Cardassian people. And now it's like, okay, let's put the neutral, the genuinely neutral Sisko in conflict with Dukat in a stage where neither of them have power over each other. Let's just talk. Let's just, and that's like a beautiful script concept to me that is handled so well. I think that, you know, they kind of overdo it with the hallucinations, but part of that is to help you ease you into the final scene. The final scene really only works if there's a small part in your brain that still believes that Dukat can be redeemed, and that you're like, well, he's delusional. So maybe it's not his fault. Maybe he just is seeing visions and I feel bad. That's so sad. He's a sad old man. But it is this brilliant, brilliant third act where, you know, we're running out of food and supplies. I've been talking to you. I realize that you're having delusions, and I'm telling you, I love that Sisko is like, can you just pretend they're not there for a sec? Instead of saying they're not there, he basically tells Dukat, can you just pretend that Kira isn't standing next to you and act like it's just you and me? Very interesting inversion with like dealing with someone with a mental health crisis. And he's like, dog, can you just, okay, let's walk with you. It's like a psychologist or something. You say you're not evil. Tell me why you're not evil. He's like, well, every opportunity I had to do something, I chose the more peaceful option. And he's like, got it. Why did you do what you did? And he's like, well, because the Bajorans are, they needed help. They needed liberation. And he's like, and what did the Bajorans do for you when you tried to help them? Well, they fought back. They blew up our shit. They killed people. Doesn't that seem unfair to you? Don't they seem evil? And he's like, why do you think that they did that? Because they're bad people and they deserve to die.
Because they're like, stupid and I'm smart.
Sisko's like, okay. And at this point, he's like, okay, now, okay, keep cooking, keep going. Okay. And he's like, I think that they're stupid and they deserve to die. And I'm the only good thing that they ever had. And I hate them. And Sisko's like, and then the beautiful line is just going, and that's why you're not evil. Got it. Noted. And that is why you are not an evil man. I was like, Avery Brooks, you are so good. Mark Limo, Avery Brooks, two titans of Deep Space Nine, just talking, just getting into the meat and the dirt. Ugh. So by the end of it, Sisko is basically confident that, like, yeah, I'm with an evil man. This is a fundamentally evil man who's irredeemable and needs help.
Yeah, I think this is an important episode for Sisko as much as it is for Dukat, because as much as he wants to deny Dukat saying like, oh, we're old friends.
Yeah.
Sisko helped Dukat to revitalize his career. Like it was through cooperating with the Deep Space Nine crew that Dukat was able to weasel his way back into power. And Sisko has some level of responsibility for like letting this man live and letting him become
multiple
who
times
he was again and occupy Terek Nor again. And so now it's by the end of the episode, Sisko's like, no, it's him or me from this point forward. I'm no longer, collaborating with these kinds of guys. They're bad. He's bad. And that's a really important moment for him. It doesn't matter if he had a real nice daughter. He's a bad guy.
Sisko gives him every opportunity here. Did you do it for your daughter? Did you do it because you're a good person? No. I gave you every chance you had. Every chance to be good or to say a good thing. Dukat just has that brainworm in the back of him that's just like, no, I just hate them. And I'm using these walls of like, but I didn't kill as many as I could have to like. And it's just, he's so vulnerable. As you said, this whole thing is him wanting Sisko to tell him he's okay. Like, he wants to be redeemed. There's something very like poetic, I think, about Dukat. It's just, he's a very vulnerable, sad man who wants to be told he's doing the right thing. And again, real life parallels.
Yeah.
Sad old men running things. I mean, we've been here before, but
Yeah, I think what this episode gets at is there's this fundamental drive within totalitarianism, fascism, patriarchy that's like, I, as the patriarch, as the dictator, as the fascist, I want to be validated at all times in my power. I am strong, I am in charge, and everybody likes it that way. And I need them to tell me that they do. And so Dukat, and I think to a certain extent Dukat believes, like, kind of drinks his own Kool-Aid in a way that I don't know if real fascisty people actually do. Like, he actually feels like, I'm a liberator, I did good things. And I don't know if, you know, Elon Musk or Donald Trump or Stephen Miller, like whoever, if those fucking guys are like sitting around feeling like they're good people, or if they just don't give a fuck.
Care anymore. Yeah.
But what's useful about this episode is it's sort of like you're saying, it behaves the way Sisko does, where he says, okay, let's take that as true.
Yeah.
Let's assume that you genuinely think you're a good person. Okay. Tell me more. Yeah. How did you get to that conclusion? And what this reveals is, like, there is no noble core to that belief that, like, it is a good thing that I have all the power. There's no way you can reason your way to that from a good starting point. You have to start from, well, I'm better than them. And so that means I deserve it. He has this moment where he says, well, we were more advanced than them technologically, blah, 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 blah. It wasn't our fault that we were a century ahead of them in development. We did not choose to be the superior race. Fate handed us that role.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay. Got it. And then that, when Sisko pushes on that, devolves into Dukat saying how much he hates the Bajorans. And then he gets to, I hate their earrings and their broken, wrinkled noses. It's just pure vitriol and like speciesism at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is a really brilliant deconstruction of, hey, audience, falling stars. Hey, audience, you were kind of falling for the grift a little bit. Of this charismatic guy, and I think myself included to a certain extent. Like, I think Mark Alimo is really charismatic and fun to watch on screen. And so it was easy to be like, yeah, I want to see more Dukat. And this episode sort of says, okay, but this guy is real bad.
Yeah, it's a great episode. It's such an S tier. And Renee actually directed this one. Aubert Chanois directed.
He's a great director of actors.
He really is.
He brings out such good performances.
Speaking of great actors, should we move to the next one? One second, our penultimate.
Yeah, let's do it.
This is 612, Who Mourns for Morn, the famous Morn episode. So I've known that there was a Morn episode forever. And I deluded myself into thinking for a while that it would be about him talking. Of course he doesn't talk in this. It's better than that. This episode's so fun because it runs on the assumption of the character I've been playing on TrekChatz of, like, I love Morn. Every time we see Morn, I'm like, ooh, Morn. And the show finally being like, oh, you ever wonder what that guy's whole deal was? Well, everyone loves him. He had a hot girlfriend and like interesting connections and a ton of money. And he's rich and he gave it all to Quark. And now he's dead. And you're like, I didn't realize how much I cared about Morn. And then as Quark gets riled up in all of this, he realizes that actually Morn has been playing Quark in a way for this huge grift involving all these different connections in his life. These women, these men, these aliens. There's these twinned assassin aliens, and they're all coming after his money. And they open the vault. They have the beautiful shot from inside the vault, like it's a Tarantino movie. And when they all eventually pull guns on each other and try to kill each other, Quark realizes that there's no latinum left in the bars. There's no actual functional money. And you're like, damn, he really just got screwed by Morn. What a funny way for this beautiful side character to go out. And even funnier, the third act twist of like, actually, Morn just wanted to get rid of all of his ops and make them kill each other. He's a master tactician, and he does end up giving Quark the latinum that he ingested, and that he can now spit into a cocktail glass and make Quark rich. It's rocks, dude. This is exactly. It's not what I thought I wanted, but it is what I wanted from a Morn episode. I had so much fun.
Yeah, this really does have, in some ways, like Tarantino or like Coen Brothers movie vibes of everybody is just kind of dumb and a little bit cruel, but it's funny. Everybody's trying to play and outsmart everybody else, and it all goes to shit.
Yeah.
It's also kind of the, it's a bit of like a noir thing. There's the femme fatale, and there's the guys who are like gonna rough me up, the twins, and all that. So it's pretty entertaining. I think my favorite part of the episode was the beginning, before we get into a lot of this plot stuff, and Quark has the hologram of Morn because it's good for business.
Yeah.
And that's the show kind of like joking about the fact that everybody loves Morn.
Yeah.
And then everybody's going to his funeral, talking about, Worf's like, yeah, I would spar with him every week. He's so great. Dax is like, yeah, I had a huge crush on him.
I fucking love that moment, dude. She's like, I wanted to fuck Morn. And Worf's like, really? And she's like, yes. I loved him.
Yeah.
King.
So that part's pretty good. Yeah, there is like the stupid part where Quark is like, hey, sexy lady, in a mud tub, and she like sticks her leg out of the mud tub, and he's like, nice, this is gonna go great for me.
Her being a femme fatale made it worth it. If it literally was just, I was his wife, he had a hot wife, I'd be like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
Did you catch the cameo?
I love
in this
the
one?
brothers. No, well, who's the cameo?
The cameo is so Mark Allen Shepard is the guy playing Morn. He's been playing Morn the whole time, and it's kind of frustrating being a character who has no lines, but you have to go into full suit and makeup every time you're on screen for 5 minutes.
So is he the human guy?
No, there's a scene where they walk by Morn's stool at the bar, and there's a Bajoran sitting there. That's Mark Allen Shepard, out of costume.
That's cute.
Yeah, they actually finally show him what we get to see what he looks like briefly. You can go back and see it. He's just a guy.
That's cute.
But it's nice to be like, we keep making you wear full costume and it sucks. This is like a heavy costume. You were saying you love the brothers, the twins?
I love the twins. They're so stupid. The way that they turn on each other at the end, the one brother's like, my brother may be slow, but he'll kill you. And then that brother's like, I'm not slow. And tries to kill his own brother.
Fuck you.
The part where also they cornered Quark in the elevator after they had like hit him over the head with the painting. And the one guy's like, my brother has something to say to you. And the other brother very genuinely says, I'm really sorry about the painting. Like, I feel really bad about breaking your painting. I love that part. Yeah, it's pretty good palate cleanser. I am more partial to the Magnificent Ferengi myself, but I do think that this is probably an A tier episode.
Yeah. I can distance myself from my Morn fandom and say this is just an A, because like I just like Morn a lot, and this was everything I wanted in more Morn. But like, yeah, this was good. This is quite good.
I called it from the beginning. I was like, oh, he faked his death. I bet.
Really?
I
Nice catch.
about that.
Good catch.
Yeah, but I thought for sure once we learned that the liquid latinum had been taken out of the bars, and Quark's like, it's just worthless gold, which is kind of funny. I thought for sure that Morn had been like injecting it into those beets and smuggling it in the beets.
Oh.
But the beets were just a red herring.
Just beets,
I guess. Just
like beets. A red beet.
Just legitimate business.
Our last episode here, folks, is season 6, episode 13, Far Beyond the Stars, which is fascinating. This is the show's attempt to zoom out. It's the kind of episode you can only do when you're confident enough in your writing and your premise to do a full walk around the fourth wall and say, let's talk about what it means to have a black captain at the front of a sci-fi TV show in the 1990s.
Yep.
And let's have that captain step back into the real world and examine his own work a little bit. It's very meta. It's very thought-provoking, and it's weird. This episode gave me some Twin Peaks vibes in moments. It almost made me cry in a couple moments. It is blunt. It hits you over the head with some of the stuff, but it is handling it with aplomb, and I think it's a really fascinating departure from what we've experienced so far. It's the kind, like I said, it's the kind of episode you can't make until you're deeply, deeply confident in your show. Mm-hmm. What did you think of Far Beyond the Stars?
I thought this was one of the best episodes of the entire series.
For sure.
It was an amazing episode of television. S tier, hands down. Yeah, really good.
Directed by Avery Brooks. Story. Yep. Story by Mark Scott Zachary, who apparently did not go on to write anything else on the show. He's done other stuff. He's written a little bit on a lot of shows and movies mostly, but he just kind of nailed it in one. And it feels out of line, out of lockstep. That's why I said obviously Waltz is the best episode of season 6, because it's Far Beyond the Stars feels like it's out of the season. It's season 0 or season infinity. The basic premise is that Sisko is, in the current day of Deep Space Nine, pretty traumatized and unsure of his position. Am I actually the prophet? Does this all mean what it means to me? Instead of doing a holodeck future or past, we go into Sisko's brain, where he processes all of this through the 1950s and reimagines everybody on Deep Space Nine as members of a publishing company. So he's a sci-fi writer named Benny. And everybody we've seen so far is there. Some of them work at the company. Some of them are police. Some of them are just Michael Dorn plays a baseball player, who everybody loves. Cassidy is a diner worker who's his girlfriend. And Jake is just a fun kid. It's not even his son. It's just a cool kid that he hangs
just
out
a guy
with.
From the neighborhood that he knows, yeah.
With a shitty mustache, a really shitty mustache.
Yeah.
Real unfortunate. We've watched a lot of Xena now. We're used to seeing people we know as other people, but there's something so magical about seeing Renee and company out of costume, especially Renee and Armin Shimmerman. I was I know who you are. I didn't even need to look up who anyone was. I was that's Odo. What's happening? It's fascinating. So that's our setup. Is okay, well, he's a writer. What does that mean? And he's trying to get his story published. The story of Sisko on Deep Space Nine is a sci-fi short story series he's been working on. And they won't publish it because the main character is black. And it's the 1950s. They go through all of the classic arguments for why you can't have a black captain in a sci-fi story. People won't believe it. Nobody can relate to it. It's too bold and too liberal. People don't read books. That's for liberal. There's this beautiful line where Benny is what about the works of Nora Zeal Hurston and all these other black authors who have done incredible work? And they're yeah, that's for liberals. Normal people don't read books by black authors, which is a perspective I've never really thought about in my own bias. It's a lot of people just say oh, that's not for me. That's fancy people reading, or that's liberal reading. And he's plagued by this because he also has his father comes onto the station in the present day, and then in the past is this priest who's you have to do the work. You're doing the work. I'm being spoken to by the prophets, in this case the religious prophets, who are also the prophets. The work is to get your word out there. And it all concludes in this incredible monologue from Avery Brooks as Benny being I can't hide this. You guys can tell me that it doesn't exist, but Sisko exists. Deep Space Nine is real. It's in my head, and it's going to come out whether you guys want it to or not. Sort of asserting the existence of, and the importance of this character. I think it's really, really powerful stuff.
Yeah, it's this incredible portrayal. There's this point towards the end where Benny is being transported to the hospital, and he asks, he's who am I? And it's the character that Sisko's father is, the priest in the past, who's with him, and responds, "You are the dreamer and the dream."
That's the Twin Peaks part.
Yeah. And it's this on the one hand, it's this really cool way to show that what I think is happening, just from a sci-fi Deep Space Nine perspective, is that Sisko is starting to have the experience of time that the prophets have, where it's outside of linearity a little bit, and it kind of transcends lives and generations and that sort of thing. He's starting to have that perspective. And then from thematically, what this is getting at is like, it's okay to have these personal doubts about your station in the world and what you're supposed to be doing if you're doing the right thing. Um, but you have this responsibility to like the people who came before you and dreamed that you would be here.
Yeah.
You are somebody's dream, and that should speak into you like a kind of power and confidence and sense that you deserve to be here, and that you are here to make the choices that you were tasked with making, because like somebody hoped against all hope that you would be able to do that. And on the flip side, it also speaks to this idea of like you might be facing adversity and confusion and despair, but even in the midst of that you can dream that one day maybe it won't be you but somebody will be in the position to make this different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the duality of like being able to put our faith in those to come and also acknowledging that we have a responsibility to those who came before us, it's so powerfully portrayed here. This is an excellent episode, and I think Avery Brooks absolutely, as he always does, but absolutely knocks it out of the park with his performance in this one.
And at the core, like surrounding this wonderful emotional core of it is just, it is fun seeing everybody else in their normal outfits. It's like seeing, people you see every single day out of their work clothes. You're like, oh, getting to see Dax like talk normal, or Worf without the teeth, or just all the Klingons not in makeup, and everyone's hot.
Yeah. Amanda and I were watching this one together, and I kept kind of like, pushing her and being like, "Oh my god, that's Nog. That's Nog. The newsie. That guy's Nog. Oh my god, this artist guy, that's Martok. Whoa."
It's a couple of them I struggled with. I was like, "Wait, which are you, Dukat?" No. And then when you realize that Dukat and Wei Yun are the shitty racist cops, you're like, "You guys are so good." Mm-hmm. Cole Meany playing the guy who just likes robots. Just a little. Why do you always try to race robots? He's like, because they're cool and I relate to them. I just like robots.
God, his character was so funny.
Dax as the like ecstatic. The thing is, it's the late 90s, so their version, it's not like Back to the Future old times where it's like, oh, all the women were stupid. It's like, no, Dax is like an avid sci-fi reader. She's like, I read all your books. Women are in this version of the 50s, more accurate to history. Women are very intelligent and like read a lot. That incredible scene where Renee's character and Armin's character call each other communist. Herb's been angry ever since Joseph Stalin died. Are you calling me a red? Like actually being really mad about that. Very funny.
Yeah. I think what this episode does, kind of on the periphery here, that's so brilliant, is it obviously makes Avery Brooks's blackness a big part of what it's examining. And it, like you were describing, it's this sort of meta thing of, okay, we've been doing 6 seasons of this show where we have a black man who's the captain of Star Trek.
Yeah.
And it's not like patting itself on the back like, wow, that's such an amazing thing to do, but it is acknowledging that 40 years prior to this show being on the air, this would have been unthinkable in American culture. And that is a big deal. Like Avery Brooks himself was born, he must be in his 40s by the time Deep Space Nine is on. He was born in 1948. So like he was a kid in this period of time that they're portraying here. This is not so distant from
his lived life
when Deep Space Nine is on the air. And to the character of Benny, it's like maybe hundreds of years in the future we'll be able to have a black captain.
Super sad.
So there is something beautiful about like, oh, it only took us 40-ish years to be bold enough to do this. But it's important. There is something to this. And along with that, not only is Avery Brooks's blackness a part of what's going on here, but like every cast member's identity is relevant to their character station in this world. Because you have Cassie and Jake and Worf are all played by black actors, and so they are black people in this era of time that has an impact on their station in society. Um, the fact that Dax and Kira are women is relevant, like you were describing.
Mm-hmm.
Not only is Dax the secretary who actually likes science fiction, can you believe it? But Kira is a woman who writes it and has to pretend like she's a man, can't be there for the company picture
Mm-hmm.
because then people will know that Casey, whatever, is a woman.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and in this scene that you were talking about, where Armin Shimmerman and Renee are arguing, and Renee calls him, essentially calls him a communist.
Mm-hmm.
Armin's Jewishness is relevant here. Like that was, I
Exactly.
think, often a criticism that was levied against Jewish people, that they were supposedly Reds or allied with the Soviet Union.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of cases, it was Jewish Americans who were like the first of the white allies to civil rights movements
For sure.
and being involved in leftist protest. Um, so it feels historically accurate also that like the most vocal advocate for Benny in the room is the Jewish guy who's
Mm-hmm.
like, what the fuck? Why are we doing this? The guy who's Jewish in the 1950s and calls the magazine editor a fascist, like spits it out full of venom. You are a fascist for doing this.
Yeah.
That fucking means something
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
when he says that in the 1950s. So I thought that not only are we examining Captain Sisko's blackness and Avery Brooks's blackness and what that means, but like everybody's identity is important here. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it's the last two big things I wanted to bring up is in that conversation, right? They're like, okay, Benny's back after a bunch of stuff. He wrote the stories. We're gonna fall behind if we don't publish the stories. And someone brings up the idea, like, well, what if it's just a dream? What if this, or I think O'Brien's or Cole Meany's character is like, well, what if this is all a dream? Then nobody has to believe it. And it's like, yeah, then it's not real. The whole point is that it's real. Like it kind of made me think in like a third dimensional way about like in the sci-fi story, they have to believe it in the world for you, the viewer, to believe it. By making it a dream, you are, and they say this, you are like selling out your own premise. You know, the it was all a dream twist basically says like, oh, none of this matters and could never really happen. But by not making it a dream, you're like, in the world of the show, in the fiction of the show, yes, we did get a black captain, and that matters, and that's what he pushes against when he has this big monologue. So I love that.
I think what's happening also in that monologue is like when Colmeany's character is like, what if it's a dream? They have this argument of, oh, that cheapens it. And then some characters are like, actually, like Bashir's character is like, actually, I think that makes it better. And
because it could be anybody's dream. It becomes almost more relatable in a way.
And it becomes a story not just about the science fiction world, but about the person who dreamed of it. So now it's not just a story about the dream, it's about the dreamer and the dream and the relationship between the two. And then we get the big monologue of the episode doesn't belong to Sisko, who we know. It belongs to Benny, and Benny insisting, you can throw out my story, but you can't destroy an idea. I came up with this thing. You all read it. You all thought about it.
You all liked it.
You all liked it. You all understood that it was possible. You can't destroy that. There's something real about the dream and the fact that I dreamed it. And so, in a way, making it a dream makes it more real, more important, and more powerful. So I thought that monologue was amazing, and the way that he just keeps repeating, "I created it, and it's real."
It's real
as he breaks down is amazing.
If I could have a rank higher than S, I would give this episode that, like, just S plus. You know.
Yeah.
I think the last big thing was, in case you weren't sure how much the episode is about race and how much it is about the unfair racism of America, Jimmy, Sirach Lofton's character, is kind of just casually murdered in a moment of police brutality by Mark Alimo and who's Wei-Yun's actor? Oh my god, Wei-Yun, the guy who plays Wei-Yun. And you're like, what happened? And it's like, well, he had a crowbar and he tried to steal someone's car, and that's it. And they shot him to death. And you're like,
yep.
If only this didn't hit. That's my feeling over and over again in season 6 of Deep Space Nine. Is I wish this didn't hit so close to home.
Yep.
You know, they're telling Sisko, or they're telling Benny, like, stay away. You're not involved. I don't want to hear that you were involved in this. Get the fuck away. They're disgusting. And you had no reason. Like, Jimmy is a side character whose like story just exists in parallel to everything happening to Benny. But in case you didn't know that Benny and Sisko are kind of the same person, you know, he cares about his son. That is like sort of the emotional pull of like, I need to get out of this fantasy now and exist back in my world. And then it calls into question, like, we're all just watching stories, you know? When he comes back to Deep Space Nine, now he's like, it all felt real. Here he tells the Bashir that at the end. And I think that's just really beautiful.
Yeah, it's this. There's so many things going on with that Jimmy character because one, it's the Dukat and Wei-Yun, and they have the moments when they're beating Jimmy to death. Or no, they're not beating Jimmy, they're beating Benny.
Benny to death.
After, when he tries to intervene.
Mm-hmm.
And it keeps flashing between them as their 50s selves and them as Dukat and Wei-Yun.
Yeah.
And the episode is like, hey, all this stuff we've been saying about the bad guys of this season, about these fucking fascists, they are in your backyard. They are the white people, the police officers, like they're here in American society. And again, this stuff historically is only 40 years prior to Deep Space Nine being a show.
Correct.
So it's not so far away from the world of the 1990s. And I don't know when like Rodney King happened, but I'm sure that is on the consciousness here too. So that moment is amazing. And then I find the Jimmy character so compelling because one, he's the antithesis of Jake in the sense that he is very pessimistic about writing. He's like, writing, whatever.
Yeah.
He has the line where he's dismissing Benny's stories and he says, oh, you're just writing about a bunch of stories about white people living on the moon.
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous. And Benny's like, no, I'm going to, put one of us in there. And he's like, oh, great. Black people living on the moon, whatever. It's ridiculous.
Change the name. Good job.
And he just like, I think his experiences rightfully make him question if things are going to change or get better for him. And then he ends up enacting a particular role in society where he sort of like accepts the limits around him. He's like, I'm just going to kind of, sell fake watches and try to steal some cars and like do what I need to do to get by because this is life and this is what it is. And it's so you can understand how he gets there, and then he's punished for that. Benny's punished for doing the opposite. It's really, really sad.
Beautiful.
And the only person who's rewarded is the black man who is a really good athlete. And isn't that also kind of something to think about, that like
we want them for their skill and their talent, but not for who they are. Because they even say, they're like, why don't you move to like the Hollywood Hills or whatever? And he's like, they won't let me live with them.
Right. So there's still obviously quite a bit of racism, and breaking the color barrier is, I don't mean to say that that's like an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
But I think it's, a reality of the cultural expectations that we have for people of color, and like, what are the ways that you could find a path to success, like dazzling success. And for young black men, it's like, well, I could become a basketball player, I guess. Like, that's what I'm told I could do to be really rich. So the contrast between the Worf character and the Sisko character, I think is really poignant as well.
It's great stuff. And that is the last episode of season 6 part 1 that we're covering today. I'm excited to see where season 6 goes from here. I imagine we come back to filling in what the Dominion's up to now and what the Cardassians are up to, licking their wounds. I think it's all going to be very exciting, and I can't wait to discuss it with you in about a month's time.
Yeah.
But for now,
Okay.
Magellan, what are we doing next time on Chats the Television Podcast?
We are going back to Xena, Warrior Princess, season
Yay.
5, right?
Yeah.
Season 5. Um, oh. Oh no, I'm not going to read these summaries to you. I'm just
Okay.
going to tell you that we're watching season 5, episodes 1 and 2, Fallen Angel and Chakram.
Ooh. I can't wait to
Just
see
remember
these.
where we left season 4. Xena and Gabrielle are dead.
But their spirits live on and float away.
They are dead. Let's figure out what to do about that.
I'm so excited. What a tease.
Yep.
In the meantime, Magellan, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on another podcast I do with my friend Justin called Super Smash Echoes, where we play video games related to the characters from the Super Smash Brothers franchise. Super Smash Echoes, check it out. You can also follow me on Bluesky at notthatmagellan.bsky.social. Alan, what about you?
I'm on Bluesky at Ibrahim, AIBRAHIM. And I'm also on a couple other podcasts, mainly the Creature Quorum, which is doing the Alola Tourism Committee right now. My friend and I play through Pokemon and talk about Pokemon. It's one of my favorite properties, and I love it. Talking about the TCG, talking about the video games, having a great time over on the Creature Quorum, found on skinlinemedia.com. You can also hear me on that same website on the Garnet Wager, where I do Korean game show discussions with my friends Six and Nick, who tell a little story along the way. That's what I got. Magellan, can you take it to the plug zone for Chats the Television Podcast, please?
I would love to. You can get in touch with the show in a few different ways. You can email us at chatzpod.gmail.com with any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, requests. If you want to be on an episode for season 5 of Xena Warrior Princess, let us know. And we'll tell you when we're recording. You could be a guest. That'd be pretty fun. You can follow us on Bluesky at chatzpod, chatzpod.bsky.social. We're also on YouTube, Chats a Television Podcast. Every instance of the word chats is CHATZ. Pod is POD. On YouTube, you can see the video version. You can see what cool shirts we're wearing. You can
Mine
see
has watermelons on it.
Yeah, Alan says watermelons on it. You can see sometimes if a little kitten comes into frame. Oh, hello. Hi, Biscuit. What's up? Okay.
Goodbye.
Um,
Delete the podcast,
so that's
Biscuit.
fun. no, Biscuit. No, don't press that button. Moogie. You can also find the show wherever you find audio podcasts.
Yeah.
And wherever you happen to find us, please rate, review, share, do all the internet things that are helpful. You could give us dollars on Patreon, patreon.com/chatspod. $1 a month gets you access to the Discord where we chat about stuff. $3 gets you twice monthly bonus content. This month, we did a review of John Bellion's discography, which was really fun. And we also watched the pilot of The West Wing. The West Wing. Yeah. $5 a month gets you thanked right here at the end of every episode. Thank you to Stefan, Six, Noel, Nick of the Brothers of Infinite War, my mom, May Louise, Marcus, Lee, Kyrie, Justin, Jen, Felicia, Emrys, Emily, Arthur, and domestic part of the podcast, Amanda. Thank you so much, all of you, for supporting the show. Thank you also to Camilla at Camillastrator for our podcast art. Alan, now it's time to give the folks a recommendation for something to snack on between now and next time. What is your chatsum for this week?
I realized that I didn't formally chatsum it because we covered it on Patreon, but not everybody here is a patron. So John Billion's new album, Father Figure, is fantastic. If you're not a patron, you don't get to hear us ramble about that for like an hour and a half, but Father Figure is his latest first album in 6 years. He is a songwriter who dips into a lot of different genres, maybe mainly in the realm of pop music and sort of rap influence, hip hop influence. But Father Figure is a more thoughtful record than he has put out in a while. It's more about this anxieties of being a new parent, and he tackles that stuff in a really interesting and different way than just being a dad is hard, I'm scared. It's like, no, there's some really good stuff in there, and I highly recommend it, not just as a big fan of his, but if you're looking for some new tunes, check out Father Figure by John Bellion. What about you, John?
Let's see, trying to find
burger.
I recently chatsummed a few zine episodes ago the Smosh Pit YouTube channel. I want to chatsum a series from the Smosh main channel, which has existed for forever, like since the inception of YouTube, as a place for sketches. And it's never been my favorite thing that was part of the Smosh empire. I just am like very iffy on sketch comedy,
Yeah, of course.
in general. And I tend to like semi-scripted or unscripted or like character-based stuff more. But they now have this series on the Smosh main channel that is, I think, really great. It's called Bit City, and it's essentially a like talk show with sketches and character stuff. It's kind of like a little looser and a little more I don't want to say amateurish, but because that's not really what it is, but more of like something you would expect to see on YouTube, but still
Little
very high
rougher.
quality version of the Comedy Bang Bang TV show. Like if you like that vibe where it's like the host is kind of weird, there's weird characters here, we're gonna cut to a fake commercial or a sketch randomly. There's the editing's kind of funky. I think you would enjoy Bit City, and I'd recommend it.
Bit City. That's on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay, let me look that up. I suddenly have an urge to rewatch the whole Comedy Bang Bang TV show. Wow.
I know. I've been thinking about it.
I have to imagine it holds up. I have to imagine. I don't know how many. Yeah, it's like Sisko trying to remember Benny.
You can't kill Comedy Bang Bang.
You can't kill an idea. Beautiful stuff. But John, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for being here with me as we discuss Star Trek and beyond, and maybe eventually Star Trek Beyond. Thank you all so very much for listening to TrekChatz. Engage. Peace.